about 11:55, so I'm just kind of giving everybody a couple minutes to settle in, allowing us an opportunity if anybody needs to use the restroom, and I apologize for starting a little bit late. So you guys got about 3 more minutes. Over. The first item on the agenda is Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development presentation, and the floor is yours.
I was just going to do a quick introduction. Good day, everybody. Mayor, Council. I'm Dana Pierce. I'm the manager of the Economic Development Division here at the city. And we also have James Conway. He's our Economic Development Specialist over there here today. Each year, the Council dedicates a portion of a workshop to presentations from our Economic Development Community Partner Organizations. And so each of these organizations, they work closely with our division and provide different services that help to support recruitment, retention, and expansion for businesses in Grants Pass. So first, I'd like to introduce Southern Oregon Economic Regional Development, which is also known as SO-READY. SO-READY operates as the Economic Development District for the Rogue Valley region, covering Jackson and Josephine County. We do have the board president here, Chris DeBose, as well as a whole crew of folks from SO-READY. But I would like to introduce you to Casey Miller. She is the vice president of the board, and she'll be presenting today along with James Tadlock, their business development manager. Come on up, Casey, thanks.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks again for inviting me here today. Like Dana said, my name is Casey Miller. I am the board vice president for SO-READY. I've been involved with this agency for almost 5 years, started right around 2020 when we all have that marker in our mind. And I'm also one of the owners of Rentech Direct, which is a software company located here in Grants Pass. I own the company with my husband, Nathan. He's also here today. And I was invited to kind of share a little bit of the work that SO-READY does in Grants Pass, Southern Oregon, Josephine County. And as a member of SO-READY, I can kind of speak on the value that the agency brings to us as a business. And then I can also speak as the board vice president, kind of a little bit of the actions that we've been able to have in the region. So I'm just kind of curious from you guys, how familiar you are with SO-READY. Is it an agency that you've heard of, know anything that they do in the region? I'm seeing a little shaking hands. So like Dana said, we are the Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Inc. And so what So Ready does is we're an agency that can bring together different organizations, kind of exactly who we're going to hear from today on the agenda, to see how can we support business in our region? How can we support it on the local level, at the city level with Grants Pass, in our counties in Josephine County, and then as a region as a whole. So I like to think of So Ready as a great connector between an idea, an entrepreneur, a business, and then also all the services that we have as a city, as a county, as a state as well. So Ready is supported by Business Oregon. So if you think of Business Oregon as that statewide economic development agency or organization, and then that comes down to our region of Southern Oregon, and then each county and city can have economic development personnel or organizations like our Chamber of Commerce as well. And so this is just a little outline of what we'll talk about today. I do have a timer going because I always like to stick on time, so I got you for another 8 more minutes. So right now, So Ready is going through a transition in leadership. We are currently looking for a new executive director. Our vision with So Ready is to drive the region forward, to work together with our different organizations that promote economic development and business by supporting entrepreneurs, supporting ideas, and bringing them together. New this year, we also started the Long-Term Growth and Strategy Committee. Our committees in our board are made up of stakeholders and key business players in our region, and we're also very fortunate to have our jurisdictional partners be members of our board, active on our boards and active on our committee. So thank you, Aaron, for the participation that you've given So Ready and being part of that Long-Term Growth and Strategy Committee. What that committee is focusing on is not redefining, but rediscovering our goals. What industries and sectors should So Ready be focusing on to drive business and economic development in Southern Oregon? We're an agency that was started a few decades ago. At the time, lumber was this huge industry that we wanted to support. But is that really the industry and the product that we need to be focusing on? So this is a really good time for So Ready to be working with that committee to redefine our strategies and our goals. Do we want to be focused on traded sector, on tech, on manufacturing, on food and beverage? How can we use our energy and our resources to support all of those different sectors to support economic development in Southern Oregon? So some of the things that So Ready works on are, we have a loan program for businesses and entrepreneurs in the region, and specifically in Grants Pass. There's a lot of business outreach. Like I said, that great connector that So Ready can be, of bringing different people together. I can think of a story of a hot sauce company that really needed to be able to have a manufacturing opportunity to drive his company forward and support more sales, but he was able to connect with So Ready and to find a space of a manufacturer space who was like, I am looking for a client to come and make more products at my space. So it's those listenings, those conversations, those connections where So Ready can really play a key role of bringing those people together. We'll also see through the entrepreneurial support of working with entrepreneurs to make their ideas launch, grow, and prosper and expand. That's what we always love to see, is a company that needs to grow because they need to support more employees, more distribution, more manufacturing. And that's where it comes to that expansion and retention. So just a little bit of a look at our loan program. These are some numbers. James, did you want to speak to any of these numbers?
I'd be happy to share. So currently we have 7 open active loans that are $925,000 in grants through Grants Pass in Josephine County with an origination amount of $1.2 million. So those loans have been paid down a little bit. We do outreach calls to businesses regarding the loan inquiries and also commercial lending meetings. We work with local financiers as banks, so we want to partner with banks. So if a bank can't get to that full funding, So Ready can step in and be that kind of go-between that can fulfill that loan requirement. And within Within that, there's a 5-person loan committee that oversees the loans to ensure that they're following our requirements and meeting all the needs that we need to do to support those entrepreneurs and be good loans. Business outreach, we go on many industry tours. So every quarter we have a new industry tour. We focus on one side of the region as we do that industry tour. So recently we just did White City. So the team went out and saw Lindy Manufacturing, NIC Industries, Boise Cascade that's out on the Highway 62, and then there was one other, but it's 30 guests that come along on those tours. 15 educators come for free, so it's high school teachers, it's university, it's RCC, to learn more about what's going on in our community so that they can share that narrative with the students in the high schools, and then also 15 professionals that are generally members of So Ready that come to those tours as well. It's a way to learn more about the jobs and the companies that are in our region. What kind of skills do our students need to be learning as they're going through school so that they can be open for those jobs? And then through the last about 5 months, we've had over 124 outreach calls to Grants Pass and Josephine County businesses. That's by myself, Ryan, the loan program manager, and then Terrell, he's also a business development manager. So it's 124 connections where we're going out and we're meeting with businesses and we're learning about their needs, and that's where So Ready really has their focus to help a business, because the business is sharing what are they struggling with, and many times we can connect them with other business services to help them get over that plateau. A good example that I like to share is there's a business who has 7,000 square feet. In order to grow his business, he needs 10,000 plus square feet of his manufacturing space. If we can help him find that space, then he can start making bigger product and ship more product out of our region. So it's having those conversations and connecting him with other people that own property, industrial space, traded sector, so that we can support the regional economy that way. And then also the enterprise zone manager, Ryan DeRue, is also on that as well. That's a way for an incentive for companies to bring in and invest capital in our region to help incentivize them to be here. Entrepreneurship support, Southern Oregon Innovation Hub, that is through So Ready. So that's a program where the state has initiated an entrepreneurship program to help entrepreneurs launch and get the resources that they need. We've been having a lot of fun with that. That's the 1 million cups on Wednesdays, 9:30 to 10:30, and it's been a lot of fun. I believe there's over 620 connections that have been made within Grants Pass. It's every Wednesday at the Hive.
Thank you, James. And so James is one of our business development managers, and I just wanted to, if the So Ready staff that's here can raise their hand too. We are very passionate about having a strong presence in Grants Pass. So Ready is designed to be that one Rogue Valley strategy, which means that we have a presence in every city within Southern Oregon and really focus on supporting those cities and the county here. I mentioned that I'm from Rentec Direct. We are a traded sector tech company. We have a software company that distributes our product across the nation and brings that revenue back here. We have contributed received over $50 million in revenue that comes back to Southern Oregon, and we contribute to over $1 million in wages annually over the past 5 years. So when we think about what business in Southern Oregon can be, it can be a software company that was created by someone who grew up in Cave Junction and now lives in Grants Pass and supports all of those local employees. But it can also be the entrepreneur that has an idea to launch a hot sauce company, to start a brick and mortar business that then they could distribute across the country and really drive sales in that manner. We all see the big box stores that come here and employ a ton of people, and those are exciting for employment in our region, but when you think about the revenue that those stores bring, those go back to the corporate offices that are typically not based in Southern Oregon. So what So Ready can really do is help the Southern Oregon business, the Southern Oregon entrepreneur thrive and prosper here. And we can do that through events like 1 million cups, through business loans, through the enterprise zone management, which can help businesses expand to support their goals and their revenues. So I always want to invite any of you to connect with us at So Ready. You can reach out to any of our business managers, anyone on our board, and our next board meeting that's going to be in Grants Pass is in August, and I invite all of you guys to come and hear the conversations that we're having with key stakeholders in our region, talking about how do we continue to help economic development thrive in Southern Oregon. So thank you so much, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or connect after this meeting. Yes, Councilor.
A quick question. So since you keep talking about the region, and we know that most of the economic drivers in our region are not in Grants Pass particularly, can you give me a figure on how many people generally commute from Josephine County to Jackson County to work on a daily basis?
So I can definitely give you these numbers specifically unless you know off the top of your head. Okay, James is.
So it's just a little over 18% of the people that live in Grants Pass, their primary jobs are in Jackson County. So that's over 6,000 people that every day during the week are traveling over. It's the same number that are coming back, but of course it's a much smaller number. I don't remember the exact percentage, but there is also 6,000 from Jackson County that come to Grants Pass as well. So it's that integration, that one Rogue Valley where we're all together.
Go ahead, Kathleen, and then Seth.
So I'm Kathleen Crone, and I connected with you a little while back, and I was wondering, were you able to get the percentage of brick and mortar buildings in Grants Pass that you've been able to secure? The percentage compared to Jackson County?
I do not have that number. We don't track the numbers in that way, but I'm happy to work with you to get some more information for you that helps you with that information.
Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, thanks, Casey and James, for being here. I've had a long history with SoReady, been working with you guys for years now. Also, I would be interested in that board meeting in August, so maybe reach out to me after. I was curious, can you maybe provide one or two examples of just current businesses within Grants Pass that you have helped, and maybe some of the things you've done with them or partnered with them on?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently, in the past year and a half, there was a company that expanded, and within our role, we want to support businesses' expansion. We want to try and keep them in the region. And if they can't find what they need as far as property to be able to expand their business, they're going to start looking outside of our region. We'll certainly support the business in that, but we want to do everything we can to retain those businesses here. So for this example, they needed so much space of industrial space, and there was nothing available in Grants Pass. And we said, hey, there's property available in White City. Would you be interested in that? So that is an example of an expansion. I want to say it was 23 million, and it's also going to create 23 jobs once that facility is up and running in White City. And it's an expansion of a business that was founded and been here for many, many years. Michael Reisel.
Oh yeah, thank you. And so beyond mycorrhizal, we've also, Weekend Beer Company is someone that SoReady has worked really closely with. Rentec, like I mentioned, we are members. And one of the things that SoReady did help with that is not only have they supported us as a business, but as property developers personally, SoReady has helped support through letters of support for workforce housing that Nathan and I took on personally. So they can go beyond businesses to support other goals within the region, like workforce housing, like childcare. The Oregon Children's Museum is a member of SoReady, that SoReady really helped develop their space in Medford, and now they're coming to Grants Pass as well. So being able to help facilitate connections and celebrate those communities to bring businesses not just from Jackson County, but back to Josephine County as well. So those are a couple of those examples.
Very good. I had a question for you. So you guys touched on loan programs, business outreach, and entrepreneurial support. Your business outreach sounded like it was very much tailored around getting to know what businesses are out within this region here. How much focus, or do you guys focus on outreach out into the realm of the rest of the United States to actually try to entice people to come here?
So, within that leadership change that was discussed, in the past, that has been a big part of SoReady and the work that we do. The organization has gone to conferences around the nation and tried to do that. With the economic climate that is happening, there's less than 1,500 companies a year that are moving and trying to relocate. So the time and energy of going out and right now trying to elicit that business to come back, the ROI is difficult, and so we will still do that at times, and we will still reach out, but right now we feel that retaining the local businesses, increasing the local workforce, thus the industrial manufacturing that can help with the taxes, tax income for our municipalities and counties is more important.
Excellent, thank you. Any other further, Victoria.
I think I've read this before, but could you speak just briefly about the funding sources for So Ready?
Okay, so we are the dedicated economic development district for our region, and that's supported through the EDA, the Economic Development Administration. So there's a couple different paths that we have for our income. So the first one, speaking of the EDA, is that we get $75,000 a year from the EDA for the work that we do, being that dedicated economic development district. The other big piece of it is our membership base. Our membership base allows us to do the work that we are doing. We work very hard to continue those relationships with those businesses, and they believe in us and tell us we believe in you and that work that you do is important, and we want you out in the community doing that work. So that's a very large piece of our annual income. I don't have the exact percentages of how much that is, but you can get on our website and go down and see our membership list of all the businesses that we've connected with that are part of our membership. And then also within the loan program, that interest that comes back is also part of our income for us to do our operations.
Thank you. You guys any further questions for these guys? Awesome. Thank you for
all
your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next on our agenda is Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, that's the wrong thing. Sorry. There it is. As you mentioned, Mayor, this is Terry Hopkins from the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce. He is their president and CEO. Welcome. You can move it too. Yeah, either way. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As Dana mentioned, my name is Terry Hopkins. I'm the President and CEO of the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and present today. Traditionally speaking, I think previous chamber CEOs have focused pretty heavily on the visitor center operations, as that's the piece that we contract with the city. But with new faces on council and me myself being new in the CEO position, I'm going to give you just a little bit broader view of what the chamber does and invite plenty of conversations after that. Simply stated, the Chamber's mission is to support and promote local commerce through communication, advocacy, and partnerships. Last year, the Chamber in Grants Pass and Josephine County celebrated its 100th anniversary, so we've been working at this for just a little bit of time. We represent over 600 members in the Grants Pass and Josephine County area, and our funding comes, with one exception, all through memberships, fundraising, and sponsorship. And that one exception directly relates to you up here on the dais. We operate North Visitor Center. This is, as you know, a traveler and visitor information center. We like many traditionally provide maps, brochures, travel magazines, and event flyers. We have places where local folks can come post. That's kind of transitioning, you know, with a lot of the events to our event calendar. I think it's the largest event calendar in Grants Pass. People can upload their own. We upload for them. But one of the other unique aspects is you'll see in the bottom left there, this visitor center is also the one that is very accommodating for larger tour buses and RV. But needless to say, we love, promote, cross-train with the Downtown Welcome Center here. A lot of our volunteers will get together with their staff for training and make sure that we're harmonious in the message that we're presenting to folks coming to our area. Outside of the visitor center operations, a little bit more traditional chamber operations. If I had to break it down into 3 categories, I've done it here. We have collaborative advocacy, where we work to connect businesses and government to inform, engage, and advocate for policies that support doing business in Josephine County. We work on economic development or economic vitality, where we support local business growth through promotion, networking, and workforce development to strengthen the local businesses in our community. And then finally, a little bit of work in space making or community engagement, making sure this remains a community that not only do we love doing business in, but love living in. We do that by strengthening community connections with communication, program and events, and not only businesses, but for the entirety of our community. So now that you know what we do, let's talk a little bit about why we do it and how we do that. Why we do what we do is that at the Chamber's core value, we exist to be the voice and advocate for local businesses. We do this work because thriving businesses are the foundation of a thriving community. When businesses succeed, they create jobs and invest in our local neighborhoods, support local schools and nonprofits. I know we share a vision with you, whether that's counselors that have been on the dais for a while or those that have come in. I've heard you all say that the answer to many of the challenges is to expand our economic development rather than adding more taxes, add to that base. Joel sits on our Government Affairs Committee and does a great job at explaining that in a game of marbles, but I'll save that for Joel's story. So we advocate for local businesses because we do believe that businesses are the cornerstone of our community, not just in driving taxes, but supporting local schools, nonprofits, children's organizations, so on and so forth. It's our local businesses that are on the back of your kid's soccer jersey every year. We connect businesses, government, and residents to foster collaboration and economic growth. We champion smart policies that protect jobs, attract investments, and encourage innovation. We exist to be a united voice for those who create opportunities in our region. And finally, we believe that our economic success and community well-being go hand in hand. So that all sounds good, but how do we accomplish those? We accomplish our mission by serving as a dynamic hub for collaboration, education, and advocacy. We host and participate in a variety of committees that empower our members to engage directly in shaping our business environment. We host many of our own committees, most of which somebody on the dais here today is participating. We have our Government Affairs Committee, Business Retention and Expansion Committee, Young Professionals Network, Lemonade Day Committee, a Finance Committee to keep me in line, and our ambassadors who you'll see out there welcoming new businesses, cutting ribbons, and really just promoting the success of businesses in our community. An incredible group. Second, we participate not just in our own committees, but have involvement on a lot of different, whether that's advisory through the city, boards of my fellow partners that are here with us today. But we represent on the Tourism Advisory Committee, Visit Grants Pass Board, Small Business Development Center Advisory Council, now on the Budget Committee, Main Streets Board, Collaborative Economic Development Committee, and Public Safety Advisory Committee. Again, just believing that continuing to connect the voice of businesses with those throughout the community, whether they're sitting here in front of me today, our partners that are speaking, local school districts, and the business community, just making sure that that conduit of communication is cohesive. Finally, we do some annual events, most of which I hope you are aware of. The first one I know you are, and I owe you a great deal of thanks as we look forward to bringing back concerts in the park to Riverside Park. We also host Tap Walk, Wine Stroll, Our annual awards banquet, the candidate forums that you've all been part of at one time or another, business after hours, ribbon cuttings, perspectives, window decorating contest, and the list goes on and on. We also provide educational programming to support business growth and workforce development. Some of those, I see my time's getting close, so I'll cut them down, but include Lemonade Day, again, our Young Professional Network. We do a business survey that then empowers the work that we do, or directs the work that we do, to include quarterly Perspectives event that addresses those issues head on, and seeks to not just sit around and talk about the challenges we face, but find actionable solutions. We host an employment law series with the help of BBSI, and work heavily on promoting our partners programs as well. We can't do this alone. Many of those partners sit in this room, but I would first note that we do consider the City of Grants Pass a partner. We're sharing your information, your opportunities, whether that's as simple as the Build a Brick program or trying to get people out to learn more about urban renewal and the programs that you have going on. As everybody presents today, I think you're going to hear a common message. I hear it over and over again since I've been in this position, that all these organizations have been doing wonderful work for years, including yourselves. But I hear it almost every day, that the communication and the common strategic goals between all of the partners, cities included, is unlike most have seen it before. So with that, I hope as the partners get up today, you don't see it as a bunch of redundancy, but a Venn diagram to where we overlap. We all kind of know where our lane is, but really work together and communicate regularly to push the ball forward in economic development, community development, and making this a better place to live. We do have a few goals for 2025, just so you can also keep me accountable. This is the year that we do our business survey. We will survey hundreds of businesses. We work with Long's Research to compile that data. And while we do evolve the questions a bit over time, we try and keep it very consistent so we can track trends and measurements over time and address those issues. I'm looking to put together a leadership training course and perhaps even work with local school districts on internship programs. If we were able to come to you with an ask today, first it starts with a thank you because we ask for your continued partnership, collaboration, and communication. And it's key to note that that's not something new, that's continued. And thank you. I feel like our communication with you as the council, with community development, with economic development has been phenomenal. That's not to say we always agree, but communication is key. And second of all, I know there's a lot of people concerned with what happens with urban renewal, but we celebrate the fact that the Downtown Welcome Center was able to leverage some lodging tax dollars under that, tourism promotion or tourism-related facilities. They took from the tourism-related facilities bucket. We do not want to touch the tourism promotion. If anything, I would love to see that bucket grow and empower Visit Grants Pass to do even more work. But under the tourism-related facilities, if there were ever an opportunity to bring the North Visitor Center in alignment with the new facade, maybe not a colonial design, but at least a refresh like we've seen downtown, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Does anybody have any questions? Rick?
Thank you, Terry. On your survey that you're going to conduct, will there be a question to the businesses that respond to determine the pulse of business activity to show how they're, I would say, surviving the economy today?
Yeah, and Councilor Ecker, I would be happy to share that past trend with you. I mean, this has been going on for decades, so we could certainly share that over time. We did take during one of the COVID years, it was scheduled to have happened. We skipped that. And, like every graph you look at, I don't care which one it is, you've got a blip on something for COVID. But yeah, I can send all that trend and look forward to reporting what the new survey does. The new survey won't happen until fall.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seth?
Thanks, Terry. Can you talk a little bit about, as you know, Main Street Grants Pass can be a membership organization. So could you maybe just touch on your views on that and how you think we'll work together?
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Benham. Like I said, it's it's interesting because a lot of people would see it as a competitive space. In competitive space, you know, if I'm hosting an educational opportunity and the Small Business Development Center is also in the education field, you know, that Venn diagram, and that's why we communicate regularly, is very important, and just understanding where people's lanes are. As it relates specifically to your question, Counselor, you know, we see partially helped identified with Main Street is that a huge area of opportunity for us right now lies in that downtown district. You know, I think that organization, and you're going to get to hear from them today, so I don't want to steal their thunder, but has identified over 44 vacancies in downtown. And so it is a harmonious relationship between the Chamber and Visit Grants Pass. I mean, I'm on the steering committee and the startup board. I applaud the work that they're doing and see them as a strategic partner with a dialed in focus of how could we get our downtown core where we want it to be. That answer it? I didn't want to steal all of Michael's presentation.
All right, thank you. Hey, I got one more question for you. So if I am a business person that's back in Minnesota and I'm looking at to relocate, then usually the first person I'm going to talk to is a Chamber of Commerce in that city. Do you guys have a package that's easily readily available with statistics and businesses and that you could actually entertain giving to prospective business that want to research relocating?
Great question, and the easy answer is yes. We do an annual profile. I just worked with Dana to put the city's article in there. So Ready has an article, SBDC has an article, Main Street has an article, Visit Grants Pass. It's got all the demographic information, but if I could dial in and maybe answer your question a little bit more, there's a specific example, and this really highlights how these partners here today work together. I had a gentleman reach out because I think, you know, the Chamber is maybe known. Not every city has a Main Street. SBDC looks a little bit different in other areas. You know, so everybody has a different name for their economic development. But a gentleman that had grown up here, moved away to Seattle, was tired of the hustle and bustle and wants to relocate his family here. And he's an entrepreneur. And he didn't come to me and say, here's exactly what I want to do. He said, what opportunities exist? With the help of the partners in the room today, we were able to send him some information. He recently came and toured the Rogue Theater. That's publicly listed, so I can say that. And then the economic development, Main Street Grants Pass was instrumental in this, and we all come together just, you know, and Dana and, you know, representatives of the city, just roll out that red carpet, you know, how can we get you here? You know, I will tie on to the question you asked, So Ready. We do send those welcome packets out if solicited, but again, staying in our lane, I'm not the one out there marketing for you to bring your business to Grants Pass. If you reach out to me, the red carpet is waiting.
Excellent, and thank you for the example. That was perfect. Thank you. Any further questions? All right, thank you for your time, Terry. All right, next on the agenda, we have a presentation from the Small Business Development Center.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll introduce Ruth Swain. She's the Director of the Small Business Development Center.
Thank you, Dana. As I've thought about sharing from the heart today, my theme is partnerships. And I too, I tell some people I'm chronologically gifted. And in the past, I've worked for a city in economic development. I've been on chamber boards. I've been in other communities. And I can truly say I have never seen the dynamic team of people working here in Grants Pass and Josephine County to make our homes and the environment for small business great. We offer two services. We do confidential, no-cost advising, one-on-one with clients. And we make our promise on confidentiality. The only reason we can talk about some businesses is because they've given us written permission to do so. We also, our second service is low-cost training. These are short-term classes typically. Our small business management program is 9 months, which is a deep dive for more advanced businesses. We also offer services at any stage. About half of our business or our clients from year to year who come in for advising are pre-venture. They're having some ideas. Quite often we get referrals from So Ready, the Chamber, IVCDO, and we're working to reach out to downtown merchants. We've attended some of the downtown activities for the idea. Some of them have launched, but they don't have customers or money coming in yet. So we work with them on planning and their marketing plans. Some want to expand. Typically, an expansion requires a deep dive for us to help them prepare for a loan package. And we do that on a regular basis. We regularly look to So Ready with its revolving loan program and IVCDO, which I know the city helped, at least found that revolving loan fund. And microloans are often the most important. They're 25 to 50,000, and as they grow the business, they qualify for more financing. Renewal, we call it renewal. During the pandemic, we did a lot of pivot on our services. We had the highest number of clients ever in 2021 and 22 to help people find a paycheck protection loan, to help them get an economic injury disaster loan. And we still do that with those clients who are affected by fire or other specialized needs. We are seeing, just last week, we learned that restaurants and food trucks and others can no longer use polystyrene. So the what do you call them, the little to-go boxes, even if they have that in inventory, they can't use them anymore. And that was a conundrum between departments. That regulation came from DEQ, but the USDA and the health department safety inspectors did not know about it. So we're trying to get the word out about new things that are affecting small business. Exit planning. In the last 2 or 3 years, we're seeing more people come to us who have been a client, but they want to retire and they want to sell the business. So we work with them behind the scenes, again, with financing partners. We don't give out loans, but we help people prepare a business plan. You must have a business plan if you want money. I do want to thank our funders. We spend 100% of our grant funds on advising. We don't, thanks to Rogue Community College, we don't pay rent. They take care of our buildings. So every dime that we can raise and continue to support. So we are incredibly grateful for the support that the city has given to us. RCC is our largest contributor, and we do receive other funds. Some of them may be up in the air right now, and so we appreciate them very much. We have 7 advisors. One of them is here today, Mike Doherty. He has deep expertise in manufacturing and traded sector. He owned a manufacturing business and has already been assisting at least, some clients here in the area. Tim Basalt was the president. People choose Grants Pass to retire. And Tim was a global restaurant CEO, and he runs our small business management program. Kenny Hauk has been a long time service to small and rural businesses. He also has expertise with food and food packaging and distribution. Delia Warner was a commercial loan officer for 25 years. And she has been serving on So Ready's loan committee. And she helps people with how to qualify. Don't write a 30-page business plan to take to a bank. They want it concise and direct. Karen Ramarino is a retired human resources expert. We added some human resources classes. She is leading our child care program and also developed a business accelerator boot camp. Richard Amneas owned Bikecraft for at least 2 decades before he moved to Rogue Community College. And when he retired, he is one of our advisors. I didn't mention that Mike Doherty also sits on the IVCDO loan committee. Lewis Power Equipment. They are a small business management grad, SBM, and we often hear through the SBM program, we work with businesses to focus on working on the business, not in the business. It's easy for a business owner to be in the weeds of the business every day and not looking at financials or planning for the future or how to pivot the business. I also just have to say, we get powerful support from your city staff. Dana Pierce, Economic Development Manager, James Conway, Economic Development Specialist. They show up, and it's an honor to work with your team members. Bradley Clark he shows up too. He's in charge of multiple programs, but it always has a listening ear. Eric Wade, Ann Ingalls with your CDBG program has been tremendous. We witness your city manager coming to meetings, talking with us. Mr. Kennedy here also showed up. We periodically sponsor how to grow your business through government contracting. And we know there's a commitment to supporting local small businesses who can qualify for contracts for services. Your programs are amazing. We try to keep up with the wonderful programs that the city offers. We get micro-E CDBG grants that pay for 90% of someone who wants to start or grow a business if they live in a low to moderate income household. We're seeing an uptick of people taking advantage of that. Urban renewal, enterprise zones. I hear about these programs all the time with Dana and James, and we try to keep our advisors informed of them. Recently, your city staff, Dana opened some doors. We have a client that Mike has been working with who is blind and has invented some, what do you call them? Anyway, he's invented products. He's trying to help blind and limited income people more able to experience public places in a safer manner. So, that touched my heart that there was support for this gentleman. It's almost impossible to thank our partners enough, including the city. Our Chamber of Commerce, I serve on 2 committees with the Chamber. Terry and I talk all the time. So Ready is an incredible partner. They are working so hard here in Grants Pass and Josephine County like I've never seen. They also are extremely supportive. Every one of them deserve thanks. James, Terrell, Amy, talked to Amy, through our Innovation Hub, Ryan, the loan officer, Carrie, I'm generally pestering her about something, Terry and his team are always responsible. I've reached out to Michael O'Coin regarding our downtown Main Street. We've been downtown, we appreciate all of our partners, and it's just amazing to be part of the team. And here's just a few pictures. We come to events, we show up. Dana serves on our SBDC Advisory Council along with Terry, and it's just impossible to say how many ways we all work together. Rogue Zipline is one of our clients, and they told us that they have increased business motivation, better structure and strategic planning, and they also know that we are here for them for ongoing support. One final program I'd like to talk about is we received a one-year grant to expand services to develop a child care program to especially support child care startups and those who want to grow. We know that there's a child care crisis and it's impacting small business and all of us. And we feel even a small step in this direction is one of our passions. It's not a lot of jobs necessarily, but it's empowering people to have a job, to have someone who's available. The City of Grants Pass stepped up with micro-E grants that would go direct to clients. One of the biggest obstacles is buying the equipment that you need to be a certified child care provider. Tables and chairs, fencing, there's a lot of regulatory requirements, and So Ready also stepped up to offer matching grants. That this money doesn't come to the SBDC, it comes direct to small businesses, and it's just been thrilling. We also have a memorandum of agreement with Southern Oregon Early Learning Services and Southern Oregon Educational Service District. Those two agencies know the regulatory parts, and now we have an evergreen MOU with these agencies, and we hope this program will continue to grow. Michelle Gallus, many of you may know her. She came to the SBDC over 20 years ago with the dream of opening a child care business. And she has come back to us from time to time, and she's grown incrementally. And she also joined our SBM program. Last year was a very successful year. I'm going over time. I apologize. I'll be my last slide. Last year we served 366 clients with one-on-one confidential advising. We had 412 people attend our classes. We have about half pre-venture and half already in business. 24 jobs were created, 7 new business starts were documented, and 1.36 million capital went to small business in spite of the increased financing costs. And much of that is thankful to our revolving loan programs where we can assist clients. We're on an uptick this year. We've already had 144 clients to date, and that's almost half of what we had in the entire year last year. Do you have any questions or comments? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Council have any questions? I don't see any, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Oops.
Okay, next on our agenda is we're going to see a presentation from Main Street Grants Pass.
All right, you have heard of Main Street Grants Pass. They are a recently formed organization for our downtown, and I'd like to introduce Michael O'Coin.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Michael O'Coin. I'm the Vice Chair of Main Street Grants Pass. I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss the future of downtown Grants Pass through Main Street program, recognizing our city's budget constraints. This proposal emphasizes fiscal responsibility, measurable outcomes, and impactful economic revitalization. Our strategic investment aims to stimulate local business growth, attract visitors, and enhance our community's overall vitality. We'll look back a little bit. Some of the City Council's strategic goals. Our Main Street initiative aligns closely with your strategic goals and priorities. In 2021, your commitment to enhancing a commercial district and support establishment of a downtown merchants association. In 2023, your objectives expanded to strengthen Grants Pass unique identity, facilitate business prosperity, and further enhance the central business district. Additionally, you emphasize collaborative relationships to promote character and community spirit by aiming to achieve an official Main Street certification. We actively support these goals through targeted efforts, ensuring a long-term success and sustainability for our downtown. Our journey to Main Street Grants Pass, this has truly been a collaborative journey with the helps of Visit Grants Pass, the Chamber, the city's economic development team. In January 2023, Travel Oregon awarded a technical assistance grant to Visit Grants Pass. In March of 2023, we had formed a valuable partnership with Civic Possible and consultant Jason Schneider. Throughout the summer and fall of 2023, Civic Possible conducted extensive community outreach, including stakeholder interviews, public information sessions, and listening forums. In January 2024, a collaborative team, including Economic Development Division, Visit Grants Pass, Travel Oregon, and Civic Possible, presented a roadmap for downtown Grants Pass to over 70 engaged community members and stakeholders. A little bit of background for Main Street America. Nationally, Main Street America has successfully revitalized historic downtown since 1980, using strategies that foster economic vitality, historic preservation, and the vibrant community spaces. Oregon Main Street was established in 2007 and adapts this model statewide, supporting almost 100 communities and achieving economic resiliencies and cultural enrichment. Locally, Main Street Grants Pass, who originated officially in January of this year, became a 501(c), applies these methods to address our unique community needs. One of these ways is currently we have two stakeholders actively pursuing over $800,000 in grant funding to revitalize downtown properties, underscoring our sustainable economic potential. Whoops, I think I got a slide ahead of me. Sorry about that. The current Main Street Grants Pass district is home to approximately 198 businesses, with 148 businesses specifically located in the core business district. Additionally, we're exploring future expansion, which our board will be voting on our next meeting, towards the river, potentially incorporating over 220 businesses. As Chair Terry mentioned, there's over almost 50 vacant spaces in that downtown area, and hopefully one of our goals is to help fill those spaces. Vision and goals for downtown Grants Pass. Our vision is clear and ambitious: to transform downtown Grants Pass into a vibrant economic and community hub. We will achieve this through strategic business attraction and retention, supporting existing businesses and drawing new, diverse enterprises downtown. We'll try to enhance tourism, creating engaging events and activities that attract visitors and residents alike, boosting economic activity. Improve public spaces, developing inviting, accessible public areas that foster community, pride, and social interaction. Diverse, sustainable revenue streams, ensuring financial independence and long-term sustainability through varied and robust funding sources. These goals lay the groundwork for lasting community, revitalization, and economic prosperity. And to the big slide, our ask. We are currently requesting from city funding requests, structure to deliver clear annual outcomes as follows. We asked for year one, which is 2025 to 2026, $80,000, increasing $10,000 each year through year three. We also have other sources of funding. Since we are a C6, we are driving through memberships. Our first year of memberships, we project over 15,000, incrementally increasing 5 to 7% each year. We've also applied for a number of grants ourselves, which we should be we should be in this year also. Also through fundraising events and merchant, we should help to subsidize some of that income. Most of our budget will go to staff and salary. We are looking for an executive director through contracted services, obviously operational costs, and also programs and activities. Investing in Main Street Grants Pass delivers tangible economic and community outcomes, higher property values, and increased tax revenues, driven by revitalized properties and thriving businesses climate, job creation, enhanced business activities, and target attraction of new enterprises create local employment opportunities, tourism growth, increased visualization stimulated by targeted promotions and vibrant community events, increased foot traffic, and reduced vacancies naturally improve public safety and perception of our downtown. Our transparency and performance matrix accountability to the council and community is fundamental. Our commitments include quarterly economic impact reports, annual financial reviews, and regular council and community engagements. I want to thank you for your support. For the Grants Pass Main Street program represents a strategic investment in sustainable economic growth, community revitalization, and enhanced livability. Together we are building a thriving, dynamic downtown and one that serves a vibrant community hub now and for future generations. Thank you for your time, your thoughtful consideration, and continued support. I'm here to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from council? Kathleen?
Well, I just wanted to thank you very much for that wonderful tour that you did downtown.
Yes, thank you.
Over the last month, and that was very helpful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your time,
Thanks,
Michael.
And I wanted to give just one last thank you to the mayor and the council for listening to these presentations today from our community partners, and thank you for coming out and sharing what we do together to have a successful economic development here in Grants Pass.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for all your guys' time. It is very refreshing to see that we do have so many organizations that are supporting Grants Pass as a whole, and just from your guys' presentations, I can see the passion is there. You guys have just as much passion for the city as we do. So thank you for your time today. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to go into budget policy update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. What I have for you is a little bit of a repeat, but I'll go through it as quickly because I know there's a long agenda today, or as slow as you'd like. So I'm going to go over a little bit of the background, some of the section edits, and hopefully have a call to action and some direction from this meeting. So a little bit of the background, we first adopted, or the last time we truly adopted, a major revision to this financial management goals and policies. It was in November of 2011. We did make two minor revisions to the general fund balance policy, which went from just a 30% minimum to a 25% minimum, with the latest revision in April of 2024 for that upcoming budget cycle. The current revisions were also presented to you on March 17th, 2025, and we tabled that for a future workshop and consideration. So staff has prepared the City of Grants Pass's financial policies and compared them to other jurisdictions in both size, regionality, and good examples around the state. So mainly, we did use the City of Ashland for its regionality, Bend because it was a good example with inclusions of its urban renewal agency, and Corvallis because it was a similar size. We did also use City of Medford, City of Lake Oswego, City of Florence, City of Redmond, City of Klamath Falls, City of Eugene, City of Salem, City of Wilsonville, and City of Springfield along across the state, just to see if we were catching all the things that potentially other communities provide. So these section edits, staff ultimately utilized more robust examples to come up with a new draft because certain examples across the state were very short or brief, and then others were a little bit in more detail. We chose to go a little bit more in detail to hopefully help facilitate the discussions of transparency to your constituents and to the public as to what we truly practice here in the City of Grants Pass. So we were aimed to consolidate and state current practices with one document and aid public understanding of local government performances. So in some of the examples, we added other linking ideas and Oregon revised statutes into this policy, so that way they could be next to each other with some of your goals potentially, so that way the public would understand there's a reason why you have to do it the way you do it. And then some of the revisions and additions were aimed to be more direct and understandable. In the current policy, it gives a discussion section for each one of the bullet points. Typically, that is not recommended for a policy to have to describe why you're putting that in as a goal or a policy. It needed to be more direct, so we streamlined some of that language in the new version. So now I'm going to go through some of the edits and overview, and I apologize. Normally we do these edits in track changes. There were so many edits that this would have probably looked like a mess to read. So that's why you have two different versions. You have the new version, and then you have the older version in 2011. So the purpose, which is a new section here in the new version, was more robust explanations of the reasoning for financial policies and consolidated auditing standards within, as well as it does make a mention and a carve out that all of this policy does actually connect to the URA, and they will be one and the same in this document. In the revenue section, we added a lot of current practices for public clarity. For the budget, we connected the strategic plan, our budgetary practices, and Oregon law. And in the capital improvement area, we updated with the best practices and included current project management practices. Expenditures is a new section in the revision. We just wanted to publicize purchasing policies and best practices, fund balance and reserves, updating with future purpose, publicizing all operating funds or programs and giving more robust standards for each area. And I will say that adding this section and actually calling out each one of the operating programs actually called out some things that you'll probably see us present in the next budget as to maybe we weren't doing the best of job of managing some of these operating areas, and so we're trying to make financial policy decisions to help facilitate where those programs need to go out in the future. In the financial planning section, we revised some of the verbiage. Debt management, we updated the policy with included legal guideline requirements. The economic development area is new. We added some value and direction of the council priorities. The financial management policies, we added more robust terms and definitions for transparency. The pension and retirement, which is another new section, is just outlining current practice and legal obligation. Again, trying to create that transparency to the public. And then your investment section is adding more explanations of current practices and aligned with the current investment policy, which we did a major revision of the current investment policy when I came on board about 3 years ago. And this just outlines some of those pieces in there as well to kind of connect the dots between other ideas. So the call to action would hopefully be today, provide staff with a confirmation or direction for revision up to the financial management goals and policies to bring forward to a future business meeting. And just like last time, I'm prepared to go through line by line, section by section with any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Rob? And then Rick?
Yeah, I'm going to ask JC and maybe Aaron. So I can think of at least three, and there might be half a dozen or more members of the budget committee that would probably be more qualified to go through this and come up with, they specifically focus in the financial sector. Is there any reason why this has to be approved this week rather than having the Budget Committee look at this document in May?
So I would say that would be, you are the policy board. They are just the financial reviewer of your policy directions. And so I would caution you about giving your policy authority to a committee.
I never said anything about giving them the authority. I was looking for their opinion. Would there be any caution to getting their opinion? And there could be some that would volunteer it, some that may not. But I know that there's at least a few that work in the financial sector specifically who would probably be more qualified than most of the people sitting on the dais now to have an opinion on it. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason why this needs to be done this week before we be able to get an opinion from the Budget Committee members who want to weigh in?
So the thought was to bring it forward to you this week so that we can have clear direction of how we bring the budget and prepare that budget message to the Budget Committee. I myself would consider myself as part of the staff professional on staff that reviewed and put these together with the best interests of the policy board, the council, and the community.
Yeah, you may be by far the most qualified person in Grants Pass to put this together. Possibly the most qualified people to come up with an intelligent opinion on it might not be on the dais today. So I'm just wondering again, what would be the advantage to this year's Budget Committee meetings by having this rubber stamped on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I didn't say it in my presentation, but I think the last presentation I gave too I want to bring this forward more regularly, at least annually. And so for the things that maybe aren't working out that we can change on an annual basis or make revisions to. So again, I don't think by even you adopting this, that it's set in stone, that you could change it in the next budget cycle.
And maybe, Councilor Pell, if trying to listen to all of this discussion, we could send this out for the rest of the Budget Committee to review, to provide comments, and still get this adopted, say, May 7th, before the Budget Committee actually meets, and therefore you're getting some additional input before you make a policy decision at a future council meeting.
And I will add that at least one Budget Committee member has reached out to me and asked some questions, and I've responded to those questions via email.
When you say asked questions, how did they even know about this document necessarily? Was it sent, how did that particular one person?
That would be a good
Have a chance to review
question.
it?
I would guess that a counselor forwarded that to that person.
Rick?
Thank you, JC. I'm looking for confirmation. I think I already know the answer. On our 25% reserve fund, are those dedicated or just monies that are not spent?
So I would call those probably most operating areas unrestricted funds. So they would be more operating in nature. The restrictions come in a little bit of a nuance when you're looking directly at water, directly at sewer, directly at stormwater, where those funds are restricted to those areas.
Okay, and then when we did our comparison with other cities showing what reserves they carry, do you know?
Yeah, it's pretty much in line. Everybody has a different policy as where they want to be the fund balance to be or where their fund balance is. So a good example is the city of Albany, I believe was operating at about a 7 to 10%, and they have put in other financial policies to help bolster their percentage up to a higher percentage. Currently, right now, we've set that standard for the general fund at 25%. That's kind of considered as your credit score, a high credit to where you could potentially go out for loans. You as a policy board can adjust that down if you'd like, but just know that future loans potentially associated with the general fund, it just works like a credit score. The further it goes down, the higher the interest rate potentially is.
So my real question is, whether it's us or another city, is that a separate category? Is that a separate dedication? Or is it just the monies that are left in that account for that division at the end of the year because they haven't spent them?
No, I think it's city to city based. I think when you look at other cities, they are doing a similar wanting to keep 25% because they're legally obligated for their debt service in the enterprise funds. Or they want to keep their general fund at a high enough 25% so where they do have a high enough credit rating that keeps their potential loan obligations and future considerations at the cheapest it can be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, thank you very much.
Could I get some direction as to
That's
how
what I
you'd
was
like
just going to
me
bring back to
okay.
council, so I guess, at this moment, he's going to be looking for some direction on where to go with this, so I know, Rob, you had some questions. Did you want to start out the discussion here?
Well, I stated my questions, and I think Aaron addressed a possible solution to the questions that I had. Is I wanted to see the members of the Budget Committee, especially those who might work full-time in the financial sector, run their eyes over this and give the council an opinion. That would be my preference at this point.
So I would be directing staff to distribute this to members of the Budget Committee for their feedback prior to us putting this on a future business meeting. Kathleen?
I tend to agree with that. Rob has a good idea there.
Okay, do we have more sentiment across the board here? Does everybody acknowledge that presence with a thumbs up? Okay, do you have clear direction? Thank you, sir. Okay, so next on the agenda is non-bargaining salary schedule reconfiguration. Lots of words.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, members of the audience. I'm here before you today to information share the non-bargaining compensation with a goal of solving internal pay compression, pay fair wages, and prevent turnover and improve recruitment. This is in relationship to the council goals of leadership and provide a shared cooperative leadership. Internal wage compression, there's disparity in historic COLA amounts by each employee group, and the 2024 Compensation and Classification Study will review the external market wages and the analysis of roles and responsibilities, and review the proposed wage placement. This non-bargaining employee group is comprised of supervisors, confidential employees, managers, directors, and the city manager. These employees are in various departments throughout the city, including administration, finance, human resources, information technology, police communication 911 center, and fire. This employee group is one of 6 employee groups comprising the Grants Pass employee groups. This group is a non-represented employee group. The other 5 groups of employees are represented by unions. So to recap, we have a city manager, a city attorney, a 911 manager, an accountant, an assistant director to public works, a building official, executive assistant in the fire department, executive assistant in the police department, office assistant in administration, there are 2 positions, a personnel analyst, a personnel assistant, a personnel technician, a deputy fire chief, those are 2 positions, the director of community development, director of finance, director of HR, director of public works, the finance support specialist, this is our payroll specialist, a fire chief, a housing and neighborhood specialist, the economic development manager, an IT manager, a police captain, those are 2 positions, the police chief, the police lieutenant, there are 3 positions, the principal planner, the superintendent of facilities, the superintendent of fleet, the superintendent of parks, the superintendent of wastewater collections, the superintendent of wastewater treatment, the superintendent of water distribution, the superintendent of water treatment, the superintendent of stormwater, accounting supervisor, business operations supervisor in the community development department, a customer service supervisor in the billing department, the parks supervisor, public safety dispatch supervisors, these are 3 positions, the records supervisor in the police department, and the business operations supervisor in the public works department. Employer compliance. Employers are required to bargain in good faith with unions. The City of Grants Pass has 5 bargaining units, including the Grants Pass Employee Association, Grants Pass Police Association, Grants Pass Police Association for Sergeants, and Teamsters. We also have the International Association of Firefighters as a bargaining unit. In the state of Oregon, any employer with 1 or more employee is subject to the Oregon pay equity laws. And in 2017, Oregon pay equity prohibited employers from asking candidates for their compensation in determining the wages that we would offer to a new hire. In 2019, In 2019, the law was expanded to prevent employers from having differences in any compensation without a basis of work of comparable character. So if there was any pay disparity, this had to be in accordance with the Oregon pay law on a bona fide factor. The proposed salary schedule reconfiguration and wage placement adjustments ensure the city is complying with this multitude of laws. So pay compression occurs when new hires earn more than tenured employees, or when employees earn close to or more than their supervisors. In my internal audit to better understand the evolution of the non-bargaining compensation plan, I found this presentation provided to Council in September of 2021. It was presented to you by the previous HR director. The previous HR director had conducted an external wage analysis and comparison and shared the findings of this analysis with Council during that 2021 presentation. The findings of the comparison study revealed that the non-bargaining positions were quite below the market. In fact, in some places you can see they're as much as 20% behind the market. During that presentation, in the call to action, there was a proposal for 2% wage adjustment on October 10 of 2021, and the proposal to expand the salary structure from 7 steps to 10 steps, with steps 8, 9, and 10 having 2% difference between the steps. Effective January 1 of 2022, there was a proposal for a 2% wage adjustment for positions more than 5% under the market. So not everybody in the salary schedule would automatically receive that. That additional 2% would be applied to those that were below market. Bringing all the positions back to comparability through the budget process in fiscal year 23 was their goal. And there was a 2% cost of living increase proposed for July 1 of 2022. So up to 8% total increases incrementally spread out between October 21 through July 1 of 2022. In that same presentation, this slide was included to demonstrate the wage adjustments by history for each of the employee groups. Remember, the proposal was to provide up to 8% total increases in increments between October and July. And if you look, the CPIU average in that look-back period was 8.9%, but the non-bargaining group received 5.6%, and the police 9.2%, fire 10.4%, GPEA 9.3%, and Teamsters 11.4%. So this demonstrates, while the proposed increases were intended to bring the wages into market, it was only addressing what had already occurred, and it wasn't fully addressing the disparity between the groups. And for some of you, you may know this, but who knows what happens in October and November in employment? Typically, an employer will look at the inflation rates, and they'll take that current rate and they'll develop their cost of living adjustment for January 1. Or in our case, the 5 collective bargaining agreements would have defined COLAs that would be tied to that inflation rate. So going forward, there should have been additional adjustments. The proposed adjustments took care of what had already occurred, but we still were not keeping pace with what was about to occur. In 2021, Council did authorize the city manager to increase the non-bargaining wages by 2% in October, and it was approved at that time to change our salary structure from 7 steps to 10 steps. But remember, 7, 8, and 9, and 10 only had 2% change between the 2 steps. And then there was a 3% cost of living increase approved for July 1 of 2022 as well. But in my review, I found this quite interesting. If you look at the salary schedule, effective July 7th of 2019, and in this comparison, we have a personnel assistant and a personnel assistant, the step 1 rate before the increases were approved to bring the salary range into market, it was $17.83 per hour that this employee could earn. After the market rate increase, it went to $18.19 per hour. So over 2 years, this position increased by 36 cents an hour at step 1. Based on that information, the previous HR director had recommended to council in 2023 that a market study be conducted, which the city did embrace and budget for. And in late 2023, we did publish an RFP for that market study, and the study began in early 2024. The study was concluded in October of 2024, which is right about on time for how long a market study typically takes. They usually take about 8 months because it's very complex. It requires fact-finding, including total job duty analysis, and then the development of a proposed salary change. The City of Ashland has conducted a full compensation and classification study. Their study was published in March of 2024. I can tell you for Grants Pass, we had agreed to a little over $21,000 for our market study. To date, we've paid out just a little over $17,000. While we researched this, we found that Ashland had budgeted $75,000 for their market study. And then Roseburg also requires a salary survey conducted at least every 5 years. So these are quite typical in the workplace. In a market study of wages, the average market salary is measured against the non-bargaining wages. Our goal was the midpoint of the comparison wages being our target. So the goal is if the midpoint wages align with 45 to 55% of the market, we're doing well. The 2024 study revealed that 93% of Grants Pass non-bargaining positions at step 1 fell below the market. I pulled this from the final study report, which demonstrates the 93% that we spoke of. And it's important to call out, when you look at a data point such as this one, this is not 55 cents on the dollar. This is a comp ratio percentage. So if you take the base pay, step 1 for the city of Grants Pass, and you divided it by the average market wage, and then multiplied it by 100 and divide it by 2, you get a comp ratio, and that gives us a percentage of how those positions are faring in the market. Sure. So it's the base wage that Grants Pass pays at step 1 divided by the average market wage at step 1, multiply by 100, and divide by 2. So it is a formula, but I wanted to call out, we're not paying 55 cents on the dollar. This is the comp ratio formula.
So if I understood you correctly, 50% that equals average.
Correct, yes. And that would be a good place to be. So this helps us understand how the internal pay compaction continued to develop after the salary changes were implemented in October of 2021. Here, this is very interesting. The red line represents the employee group that we're reviewing today. This is the non-bargaining line. And as you can see, this is about the time period when the previous HR director brought to council's attention that these wages were lagging the market. And you can see steadily the line remains below the other employee groups and completely drops off like this in 2024 and 25. So the represented employee groups continue to receive higher cost of living adjustments than the other employee groups. And then externally in the market, employers were providing increases to those positions that kept up with inflation. So the internal-external factor is how these positions ended up below the market and with internal compression. If you look at the COLAs by percentages, this will help understand numerically how the internal compression began and continued. In the earlier years, it's not too bad. There's a 1% to 2% variation, but it goes back and forth and it's very well balanced. By 2020, we start to see a significant change in the numbers, and then that just compounds forward, where by the end for 24 and 25, this employee group cost of living remained flat, while the other groups continued to increase even as much as 11 and 12%. These are the 2025 COLA comparisons by employee group. GPPA is scheduled to receive 8.1% throughout 2025. The non-bargaining group doesn't have anything approved at this time. The IAFF group will enjoy a 4% cost of living increase. Teamsters, 3.02%, and GPEA will receive 3%. All 5 represented groups will receive increases on July 1 of 2025. Non-bargaining is the only group not scheduled to receive an increase at this time. Understanding total compensation is more than a salary schedule. Base pay is defined in a salary schedule but does not demonstrate total compensation. So, in addition to base pay, one must understand the incentives and how they will increase that regular take-home pay. In Grants Pass, all 5 bargaining units employees are eligible for a variety of different incentives, including education, language, certification pay, and longevity pay. The non-bargaining group is not eligible for these incentives. So understanding take-home pay, again, it's base pay plus incentives and indirect benefits equal compensation. Here, we review how incentive pay can increase total pay and impact internal wage compression. Incentive pay is regular pay. It's processed with every paycheck. So in this example, we see that a battalion chief with 15 years of service will take home $1.86 per hour less if they promoted to a deputy chief. And a lieutenant who supervises the sergeant, the supervisor only receives 86 cents more in pay even with 15 years of service. And again, we have increases scheduled for all of the represented employee groups on July 1 of 2025. So 78 days, but who's counting? So with the police department, they are scheduled to receive 1.5% on July 1 and then another 3% on January 1. So if we look forward in time, this demonstrates the future compression after these increases. This is applied per the collective bargaining agreement. And remember, as an employer, we're required to respect the collective bargaining agreements. We cannot take away pay. So the lieutenant is the supervisor. They are a member of the non-bargaining employee group. They supervise the sergeant. Their hourly base pay is $47.90. They are not eligible for any incentives, so their current total hourly pay is $47.90. This is an exempt employee as a supervisor, and they are not eligible for overtime. The employee they supervise is a sergeant and is represented, and their base pay is $46.81. They are eligible for a DPSST incentive of 3%. That means in addition to their hourly base pay, they earn an extra $1.40 per hour. They are also eligible for longevity incentive of 2%. So they get an additional 94 cents per hour in their base pay. Before overtime, this employee earns $49.15, while their supervisor earns $47.90. So one thing I will call out is it is not uncommon in public safety to see officers and entry firefighters earning more than their supervisors. That generally happens through overtime. But in our case, it's happening through base pay. This is uncommon, and it creates a terrible situation for us in trying to do succession planning. Here we'll talk about the fire wage compression. So I have mentioned IAFF has provided me the notice, and I have to bargain with them this summer. We're scheduling it currently. But we do know, in addition to the wage changes that they will bargain this summer, they will also experience a 1% increase in their paramedic incentive. So the way that looks when we look toward the future is the deputy chief is the employee that is a member of the non-bargaining employee group. They supervise the battalion chief. The deputy chief earns $53.31 per hour. They are eligible for a paramedic incentive of 5%, and that adds $2.67 per hour. They are not eligible for overtime, so their current hourly pay is $55.97. The battalion chief currently earns $52.57, but that's going to increase through bargaining this summer. The paramedic incentive is increasing to 9% in January, which is an additional $4.73 per hour. In addition, the battalion chief receives the 2% longevity pay, and that brings their hourly pay to $58.24 hourly before any overtime. and this employee is able to earn overtime because they're not exempt and they are not considered the supervisor. So the city must bargain with Teamsters, GPEA, and IAFF this summer for increases. Those will become new contracts effective January 1 of 2026. All three bargaining groups are going to ask for higher pay. The increases are already approved for GPPA sergeants, Teamsters, and GPEA effective July 1. We have had employees decline promotion. They're refusing promotions due to the pay decrease. An employee is currently considering promotion to deputy chief, but is waiting to see if council approves new salaries for the non-bargaining before pursuing the promotion. Lieutenants are considering demotion to sergeants for better pay. Employees are not applying or testing for promotion because it will be a pay cut to move into a managerial role. And last year, we had an employee interview and be offered the promotion and then ultimately declined because they were unable to afford the pay cut. Decrease in pay for increased responsibilities. So the meaning of fair wages is compensation that is equitable, appropriate, and aligned with the value of work performed. The current non-bargaining compensation plan is not equitable, internally or externally. We have internal pay compression, and the wages are below the market. Medford is recruiting for a public works director. Their posted salary in the salary schedule does not reflect the wage provided in the recruitment. So Medford is currently starting step one at $152,000 with a 1% deferred compensation contribution, and a $3,600 per year car allowance. And if you're not familiar with deferred compensation, it is a retirement account. It's similar to a 403B. In some cases, the employer matches what the employee contributes, and in some cases, employers just simply make that contribution on behalf of the employee. So in Medford, they're making a 1% contribution. Grants Pass current step one is $116,000, and Grants Pass does not offer deferred compensation or a car allowance. So if we evaluate step one, Grants Pass, to step one, Medford, we see that there's about a $36,000 difference just in starting pay before the 1% contribution is provided, or the $3,600 car allowance. So Medford total compensation at step one could be as high as $157,000. Grants Pass total compensation at step one is $116,000. This is the recruitment for your review. And by the way, the recruiter did email this to our Public Works Director as well as our Assistant Public Works Director. So if you look at this, you'll see that the salary range for this position is $152,000 to $194,000. Salary placement is dependent upon experience, qualification, and an adherence with pay equity. It's a lot of money. So if we were to compare the two positions and do a job analysis beyond job title, we would see that the Grants Pass Public Works Director is responsible for an operating budget of $164 million. Well, it's a lot longer, I just rounded that. $163 million. This amount includes the solid waste agency dollars, which are not city funds, but are managed by our Public Works Director. If we take out those dollars, the Public Works Director for the City of Grants Pass is responsible for 62.9% of the city resources. They're responsible for a water treatment plant and ensure that we have safe drinking water. They're responsible for the water restoration plant, which is our sewage treatment. When evaluating the Medford Public Works Director, we see that their operating budget is $129 million, which is quite a bit less than Grants Pass. They don't have any water treatment plant responsibilities, as the Medford Water Commission is responsible for safe drinking water in Medford, not the city of Medford. They have reduced sewage responsibilities than the city of Grants Pass, as Rogue Valley Sewer Services District provides some sewer services. This is a good example about why researching the job beyond the title and actually understanding what the different duties and role is so important when you're doing a compensation analysis. I would have never known about Medford Water or the Rogue Valley Sewer without this analysis. So the responsibilities by director and city will vary greatly. The Grants Pass director is responsible for the water treatment plant as well as the water restoration plant. They're also responsible for streets, solid waste, stormwater, public works administration, and with a budget that big, I'm sure you would need some support. Engineering, the GIS division, facilities replacement, garage services, fleet, and equipment replacement. This department functions with 58 FTE, and the Public Works Director has 11 direct reports. In reviewing Roseburg, we see that they have the engineering and GIS division, building maintenance, street light division, parks and recreation, and an airport. They have 54 FTE in their department. Medford has some limited water reclamation services, engineering, collections and drainage, streets and stormwater, fleet, and public works administration. They do have 120 FTE. The city of Kaiser, they have engineering, water, stormwater, streets, parks, facility maintenance, and emergency management. And Woodburn, wastewater, surface water, street maintenance, fleet maintenance, and engineering. So you can see as you review the different roles and responsibilities for a public works director, it's going to vary greatly depending on the size of the departments. Using a posted salary schedule and including incentives offered by each city, we can evaluate the current and proposed compensation for Grants Pass. In this example, we evaluate for an employee with extensive years of experience, and this demonstrates the base salary posted in a salary schedule as well as adding in the incentive pays. So if we were to look at Medford Step 1 with their new proposed wages, it starts out at $152,000. They do have the 1% deferred compensation match and the $3,600 annual car allowance. That would bring their total compensation to about $199,000 per year. Albany, which is one of our comparable cities, Step 1 is $135,000. It goes up to $183,000. They do have a deferred compensation match for this position of 3.5%, which is an additional $6,400 a year, 11% longevity for 22 years of service, is an additional $20,000 in pay. That brings the total compensation to $210,000. Our current compensation is $116,000 to $156,000. There are no deferred comp or incentives, so the most take-home total compensation would be $156,000. In the proposed salary range, we start out at $159,000 up to $226,000. We are proposing the 2% longevity incentive to match all of the other employee groups, and that would bring, at Step 7, the total compensation to $205,000. Woodburn is also recruiting. They're looking for a new police chief. Woodburn is smaller in population than Grants Pass. The Woodburn Police Chief has 37 sworn officers, while Grants Pass has 57 sworn officers. Their step 1 pay range, depending on qualifications, is somewhere between $170,000 and $190,000. Plus, they do a 5% deferred compensation contribution. Grants Pass current step 1 is $122,000. Grants Pass does not provide deferred compensation contributions. So in comparison, when we look at the starting pay for Grants Pass versus the starting pay for Woodburn, we see the difference is roughly $48,000 to $68,000 difference in pay. Plus, with the 5% deferred compensation provided by Woodburn, this is an additional $8,500 to $9,500 per year. So that would bring Woodburn total compensation at step 1 to $178,000 up to $199,000. And we learned that a cost of living increase is already scheduled for this position effective June 22nd of 2025. Here's the job posting for your reference. You can see that the applications, the end date was on April 11th, so last Friday, and that the salary range is between $170,000 and $190,000. And I do want to say, our police chief does have additional responsibilities that the Woodburn police chief would not have or does have. And that's not just an FTE, but our police chief is responsible for the 911 communication center here in Grants Pass. The Woodburn chief is not responsible for a communication center. Again, just like with Public Works, our police chief responsibilities vary greatly by city. You can see in Grants Pass, we have the 57 sworn officers, and Chief Hensman is responsible for the 911 call center, which is an additional FTE of 20 people. The total number, including on-call employees and school marshals, our chief is responsible for 112 people. Woodburn has 37 officers, and they do not manage the 911 call center. That's provided through Metcom 911 services. Albany has 66 officers, sworn officers. They do have a call center in Albany that the chief is responsible for. It's much smaller than Grants Pass. It has an additional FTE count of 12. Medford has 117 sworn officers. They are not responsible for the call center. That's managed through the Emergency Communications of Southern Oregon. Roseburg has 38 sworn officers, and they also are not responsible for the 911 call center. That's managed through the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And finally, Kaiser has 41 sworn officers, and they are also not responsible for the 911 center. That's handled through the Willamette Valley Communications Center. Speaking of ECSO, ECSO is currently recruiting for a communication supervisor. This position is the same as the communication supervisor here in Grants Pass, which is part of the non-bargaining employee group. To be competitive, Grants Pass would have to hire at step 10 and would still be below step 1 of ECSO. ECSO starting wage is $8,364 per month. Grants Pass starting pay is $5,997 per month. The difference in pay is $2,600 a month starting. We are proposing the new salary at $6,330 to start per month. The top pay currently with ECSO is $9,681, and our proposed salary increase is up to $9,009. If you're not familiar with ECSO, which I wasn't until I started doing these job analysis, they are located in Medford, and they provide services throughout Jackson County and the Rogue Valley. And here is their supervisor job posting for your review. As you can see, the beginning salary is posted at the $8,300. And actually, I should share with you, I I learned about this because someone at ECSO contacted our supervisor and alerted them to the job opportunity. Like the police chief and public works director, the responsibilities and duties of the position must be evaluated beyond the job title. The increased responsibilities for a department director also increase the responsibilities and duties for a city manager. We must consider the population size, the physical size of the city, the number of departments, the number of employees, and the life and safety responsibilities, such as police and fire. Not all cities have fire departments. Many cities have no fire responsibilities at all because the fire districts manage the fire services. Our city manager is responsible for 3 additional fire stations, in addition to the police department and the 911 communications center. We're responsible for the safe drinking water here in Grants Pass and environmental risk mitigation. We do have that water reclamation plant, and there is sewer being processed right next to a river. Albany and Roseburg do not use a salary schedule with steps for the city manager. In this scenario, we use an employee with 14 years of service. And I want to call out, so that you're tracking with me, Albany, their effective date of their salary schedule is January 1 of 2025. Lake Oswego is July 1 of 2024. Why that's important is one would need to evaluate when the next salary change might happen for that organization. So in this case, we're using Albany's wages effective in January, and their pay is $208,000 a year, plus a 10% deferred compensation contribution, which is $20,000, and then the 6% longevity incentive, which is an additional $12,517. That would bring the total compensation to $240,000. Lake Oswego, effective right now, but I would anticipate or suspect that there's going to be an increase effective in July. Right now, their wage range is $175 to $213, with a 5% deferred compensation contribution and a $500 a month car allowance. So their total compensation for the year is estimated at $229,000. Lebanon, as I was researching the city managers, I found Lebanon to be quite interesting. If you're not familiar with it, it's a small town up north, kind of out towards Sweet Home. Right now, their wages are $147,000 to $195,000 per year. They do an 8% deferred compensation match, and they have a 3% COLA scheduled for July 1 of 2025. So presently, their total compensation is $211,000, but after July 1, it increases to $208,000 total compensation. Klamath Falls has a current salary range of $158,000 to $227,000. They do offer or provide the $350 a month travel allowance, so their total compensation is $231,000. Roseburg also has that single, not a salary schedule, but that single wage of $186 per year, and they do pay a $250 a month car allowance. That will be reviewed in September of 2025 and may have an increase. Their total compensation is $189,000. Our current Grants Pass salary is $143,000 to $194,000. We do an 8% deferred contribution for a total compensation of $210,000. In this scenario, using an employee with 14 years of service, we would place them about step 8, and in our range, that range is $178,000 to $254,000. The total compensation would be $258,000. Community Development Director. Just like the directors, the other directors and chiefs that we've reviewed, we see that there's a variety of duties and responsibilities. In Grants Pass, our one community development director is responsible for the building department, the planning department, downtown, parks and rec, economic development. The current top salary in Grants Pass is $154,000. In Woodburn, the director is responsible for just one department, and their current salary is $177,000. Albany is responsible for the community development department and oversees the planning manager. Their top salary step is $183,000. Medford does not have a CD director, but has an urban renewal director. In addition to that director, they also have a planning director. Now remember, in Grants Pass, the community development director is responsible for the planning department, but in Medford, they have their own dedicated director. They have a parks and rec director and a building safety director. Their current top salary is $162,000. I do have an asterisk there. I had heard as I was making calls that not just the Public Works Director in Medford was receiving an increase, but that it was going through all of the directors. I just haven't been able to obtain what those numbers are. Roseburg, the Community Development Director, is over the CD department, and their current top salary is $162,000. Kaiser doesn't utilize a CD director right now, but they do have a planning director just for the planning division, and that position pays $158,000 top salary. Looking at Human Resources Director, Grants Pass Director has 3 direct reports and 5 bargaining units. That means there's 5 separate collective bargaining agreements that the HR directors are responsible for. Our salary range is $104 to $139 annually. Medford has 4 direct reports with 4 bargaining units, and their salary range is $127 to $162,000. Ashland has 2 direct reports and 4 bargaining units. Their salary range is $117 to $167 annually. Albany has 5 direct reports with 3 bargaining units, and they can earn up to $174,000 per year. Klamath Falls is 1 direct report and 2 bargaining units. Their salary range goes from $76,000 up to $109,000 annually. Kaiser has 1 direct report and 2 bargaining units, and their salary goes up to $158,000. Roseburg has 2 direct reports and 3 bargaining units, and their salary range goes up to $149,000. Grants Pass has the highest number of bargaining units. The finance director in Grants Pass has 2 direct reports and 14 people in the department. The salary range goes from $110,000 to $148,000. Medford has 5 direct reports and 22 FTE, and their salary range goes from $143,000 to $182,000. Ashland, we were unable to identify how many direct reports there are, but we learned Ashland has 16 FTE in their department, and their salary range goes from $105,000 to $141,000 annually. Albany, we weren't able to identify the number of direct reports or the department FTE, but we did collect their salary range, which was $129,000 to $174,000. And Klamath Falls has 2 direct reports, 6.5 in the department total, and their salary range goes up to $180,000. Kaiser has 9 in the department, and their salary range goes up to $174,000. Roseburg has 4 direct reports, 7.3 FTE, and their salary range goes up to $162,000. So I pointed out the date that a salary schedule was adopted to you in the previous slides, but when you're conducting a compensation analysis, it's very important to understand the life cycle of the salary schedule you are reviewing. This is important because if you're using a salary schedule that is at the end of its life cycle, you will be adopting a salary compensation plan that's already falling below market. So the posted salary schedule tells us the compensation for a moment in time. It tells us where the employer pay was when the schedule was created. But we need to evaluate when a new schedule will be adopted. So when was the salary schedule created? When is the salary schedule expiring? What internal pay changes are occurring that will create internal pay compaction? And what is the external market doing? So here, this demonstrates the cycle of the salary schedule. So we've created the salaries, and then COLA compression begins. So if we create this in January, or in July rather, in January, council approves cost of living adjustments for all 6 of the bargaining groups. The non-bargaining group got 3%. The represented employees got 4%. We have a 1% compression starting right here. And that is what happened last year. So we started out with a 1% compression, and then bargaining occurred, which resulted in those represented employees receiving pay increases and increased incentives. So now we're having severe internal compression. Externally, our market has changed. So external employers have been giving cost of living increases to their non-bargaining groups according to inflation and according to those internal wage changes. That didn't happen here in Grants Pass. Now we've reached the orange cycle. This is where we're unable to recruit employees, we're unable to promote employees, and employees are starting to leave for better pay. Our salary life cycle has reached the end of its life. It needs to be replaced. Grants Pass employees are receiving notice of nearby employers offering better pay and benefits. In recruitment, we're having a hard time filling vacancies. Currently, we have 17 vacant positions. That's nearly 7% of our total workforce is vacant. When we look back at the history of positions that have been hard to fill, we're seeing that the city attorney was 370 days vacant. The fire chief, 346 days. The finance director, 216 days. Human resources was 45 days. The superintendent of collections, 628 days. This position is very hard to fill. It requires extensive DEQ certification, and for us, thankfully, with the relationship of a retiree, we were able to have that person come back and help us during that time, but the position was vacant and we were recruiting. The principal planner, 805 days vacant. During this time, the city reached out to recruitment agencies for help in marketing these positions to try to get them filled, and the cost to the city was just over $62,000. So when you're developing a compensation plan, which a typical compensation plan will last 3 to 5 years, sometimes it can last longer, sometimes it has to be replaced faster depending on internal pay compression and the market. But our goal is a 5+ year compensation plan. So the existing non-bargaining compensation plan has reached the end of its life cycle. So while we're developing a new compensation plan, the factors that we must recognize and contribute to the development of the plan is the analysis of each role beyond its job title. What is actually happening in that job position? We must evaluate the internal pay compression and the external market rate. We must understand future scheduled increases for all employee groups, and we must understand our recruitment needs. Internally and externally, how is recruitment? What do we want in recruitment? And your compensation plan must be developed to ensure the success of the mission and the strategic plan of the city. And if you read the mission of the City of Grants Pass, our mission is excellence, which means we must be able to attract and retain the best candidates. In the final report for the market study, the consultant discusses the placement of employee wages. It's a little complicated to read it, but basically any employee that was under step 1 of the new compensation plan would be moved to step 1. In situations where we have employees with a number of years in the position, say 5 years, the employee is below step 4 and has 5 or more years of service, an adjustment to a step at or above step 4. So what she's saying is, if they have 5 years of experience, they should be somewhere between 4 and 5 in the steps. Typically, if you were going to update your compensation plan and you had employees that were already in step 10, if your budget could handle that, you would just move them into the new compensation plan at step 10. But with our situation, when I evaluated the step placement, I determined it was best to apply organ pay equity, which is adhering to our seniority plan. So, what the law states is any difference in pay must be based entirely on one or more of the following factors: seniority system, merit system, education, training, and/or experience. Rather than just putting everyone in step 10 that was already in step 10, we followed the law in determining the following factors, and we moved them into the ranges that tried to get them as close to midpoint, but adhered to the laws. One thing I'd like to point out to each of you for your consideration is we received the market study report on October 21st of 2024. And on November 9th of 2024, we had our first bargaining session with GPPA. Those changes through bargaining and through the increases that have been applied through the collective bargaining agreements since the report was issued is also part of how we factored for step placement. So any increases that came after the consultant developed the final report, we had to factor that in internally to make sure that we were addressing internal compression. Excuse me. Let's talk about pay bands. So this is a clip from a posted salary schedule. And what this is during a compensation study, each employee was required to fill out a questionnaire about the actual duties and job tasks that they are performing. The consultant scored those, and the employees that had the same scores were placed in the same pay band. So all of these are non-bargaining positions. They're all employees, and they're all grouped in the same salary band. We call that a band. When you look at this, this is the annual salary. Each one of these positions, that's the annual salary. This is their monthly pay. This is their bi-weekly pay because the City of Grants Pass pays employees every other week. That's what this represents. And this is their hourly pay. So remember, BOLI requires that employers pay employees comparable wages based on the required critical thinking and independent decision-making and judgment, as well as the risk brought to the organization by the person conducting the services. It's a lot. So in our proposed step placement, it was based on pay equity. The city currently grants step increases annually to employees at their annual performance review. The employee must meet or exceed expectations to receive that step increase. So we have a seniority-based system. They get it annually. and it's based on merit. They have to have a meets or exceeds on their performance review to be eligible for the step increase. In addition to that, employers are required to utilize bona fide factors when analyzing pay differences. So any difference in pay must be based entirely on one or more of the following factors. And the first one is seniority system. The second one is the merit system, and then a system that measures earnings by quantity or quality of production, education, training, and/or experience. There must be a consistent and verifiable system for this pay structure. And for us in Grants Pass, the verifiable system is the annual performance review. So there may be a little bit of confusion. I gave you the list of our proposed step placements, and some of the titles don't exactly match the list that you received. So I want to explain that. Our payroll system has some naming convention challenges, and sometimes if the title is too long or if there's some naming convention conflict, it doesn't always match. We are hoping that this is resolved in the near future through some system upgrades and some cleanup, but that is why you might have noticed a difference in the titling. Specifically, with the 911 communications supervisor, the title is off. So the step placement criteria, employers newer to the position or organization were easier to place. Employees with longer years of service in their position were placed in the mid-range. Education, skills, experience, and seniority must be considered. And we're using the seniority merits process for our wage placement. These are the cost estimate comparisons for council's review. GPPA did receive an approval of 1.1 for 79 FTE. The IAFF employee group of 29 FTE received an estimated cost increase of $697,000. The non-bargaining proposal amount for council's consideration is 1.2, and that's for the full fiscal year of 25-26. Again, we do have 51 FTE in our group. I should mention, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, this employee group has shrank in 2024. Previously, the battalion chiefs and the sergeants were part of this employee group, but they petitioned the Oregon Employer Relations Board to become represented employees for better pay and benefits. So they left the non-bargaining group and moved into represented employment. For further review, we break this down by the total cost estimate so you can see all of the components. It's not just wages alone that compound that total estimate. It also includes the longevity pay if council approves that. Additional pays and certifications, that would be like the deputy chief DPSST certification, the taxes, Social Security, Medicare. Other insurance is long-term disability or life insurance, the Oregon Family Leave tax, and the estimated increase for our workers' compensation. So the call for action today is to consider approval of the wage adjustments as proposed for the May 7th, 2025 business meeting. That would be to adopt the reconfigured salary schedule and proposed step placement, approve alignment of the holiday and vacation amounts for internal equity, approve longevity incentive of 1% for 10 years of service, and then 2% at 15 years of service. This is not a cumulative incentive. The maximum incentive amount is 2%. Approve the reclassification of the Information Technology Director, Chief Financial Officer, and Utility Billing Supervisor. And I should say, reclassification does not result in increased FTE. It's simply correcting the job title to the duties currently being performed. The alternatives for council is to provide staff direction on desired changes to the proposal or maintain the current salary structure. Please
Thank you
advise
very
me.
much.
Whew.
Take a breath now?
Yeah.
Right? You need a glass of water too? Like, there you go. That was pretty darn impressive. I do have to applaud you on that.
Thank you.
I don't think I could spoke, that was what as long as a filibuster almost there, so you're good to go. With that, does anybody have some questions? Rick? Kathleen?
Thank you, Mandy.
How do I get back to
I have
that?
several
Sorry.
questions.
Thank you.
On slide 48. Sometime in the future, could I have the cost savings for the salaries for the days those positions were vacant? Not today.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank
then
you.
slide 45. So part of our discussion here today is that the positions we have in Grants Pass should be equal to our comparative cities. So when we see the schedule here, nobody is, there's only two positions that are identical. Albany, excuse me, yes, Albany is pretty close to Kaiser in some ways. Well, excuse me. There were two positions that were fairly close, but everybody has a difference. If we are under the obligation to provide the same pay as other cities, why does not the state of Oregon have a constitution or ordinance that says each job description shall be the same? Each job description, which we're hearing, has to pay the same amount. Why do we have to adjust our salary when all these other cities haven't adjusted their salary? Shouldn't we be the only one that's out of balance?
So for these non-bargaining positions,
Yes.
we don't have to match to the cities that we're using for comparisons. That happens in our bargaining groups. So when we're bargaining with represented employees, we're locked into the cities up and the cities down for comparison. But in our case, this gives you a rough idea of what other cities are paying for these duties, but it's important to remember when you do the job analysis that the actual duties performed vary greatly.
Okay, I appreciate that because that really helps my perspective. So, last question. So if we choose to recognize something, and let's say there's a group of people that have our differentials 2%, some are 10%, some are 20%. Do we have, it's my understanding, we have to represent the entire spectrum. We can't pick and say, okay, we're going to give the 2% people 100%, the 10% only 50%, and so forth. We have to do equally among all groups. You know what I'm saying?
I think if you're referring to the longevity pay, that one we can see how it is really factoring into the internal compression. So the non-bargaining employee group is the only group that doesn't receive that 2% or 1% longevity pay. So in my professional opinion, I recommend council consider that to try to address the internal pay inequities. If you're talking about externally to the other cities, where like Albany had the 11% longevity incentive, no.
Okay, what I'm talking about are the 51 employees.
Uh-huh.
Let's say 10 of the employees are in the 2% group, and let's say 20 employees are in the 10% group differential. Can we single out those groups within that 51 for the pay raise, or do we have to have, if there is a pay raise, it has to be identical throughout the entire spectrum?
Yeah, so the salary schedule that we're proposing does address the compression position by position to the supervisor. So I wouldn't recommend pulling out part of that group and not adopting and changing the salary configuration as proposed. receives.
I think where the counselor's asking is we're trying, the salary structure and schedule's fine, but when you're talking about increases in some of those bands, all bands are not created equal from an increase perspective, because some bands were above market. 7% was. So that means they're not going to get an increase that a band that was 25 under market.
Correct.
So that's all different. They're not treated the same from, the bands are all getting a certain increase.
Correct.
Is that correct?
So the pay bands did have a variety of increases based on how they factored externally in the market and what the internal compression was.
So if a band has a 20% increase to be competitive, can, I want to say negotiate, or can we set a proposal that for that 20% increase, that we do it over a 4-year period?
Depending on the position, the compression in the market could drive that.
So there's nothing that states you can't do something like that. You could take this proposal and say, do it over 2 years, 4 years, 12 years. You could take this proposal and say, cut it in half and implement accordingly. There isn't something that you have to do, because this isn't truly a bargaining unit. So you can give parameters, as Mandy was trying to say. The key is you want to try to keep the system whole. You've got bands that were, high, low, and really low, and so, you need to, it'd be difficult to adjust just one band without putting holes in the whole system. But you can fluctuate the whole system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
I got Kathleen and then Seth.
Okay, Mandy, so I think my confusion is around this step placement. Are we creating a whole new step placement to create? I don't know that I've received those changes. We have this sheet where there's a proposed step placement, current step,
That's
but
it.
not a step 1 and this is what it is, step 10 and this is what it's going to be on a new schedule.
Oh, I see.
And so now on this sheet, we just went over the Public Works Director, and there's a proposed step placement, current step at 8, and then a proposed step of 6, but on the screen it said 7, step 7. So it's like all over the map, and I'm having a hard time following how these steps in the new schedule are being applied.
I apologize. As you say that, I had a moment of clarity where I can understand exactly what you're speaking to. In the first council package, we did include the salary schedule whole, so you could see all of the steps. And in hindsight, I realized I should have included that today.
So that schedule hasn't changed?
No, that schedule has not changed.
That is the new one?
That is the proposed new one. Yep, what was in the previous council packet is still the schedule, and I apologize for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Seth?
Yeah, so on the call to action items, it says approve alignment of holiday and vacation amounts, but I don't think based on what was in this presentation, we even talked about the benefits other than some incentive pay examples. So is there a reason for that, or can we add that in? Like health insurance, retirement, paid leave policies?
Thank you for asking that, Counselor. You're correct. I'm sorry. In the first 2 presentations, we did talk about that. We have, if you look in our personnel rules and our non-bargaining employee handbook, there is disparity internally where some of the bargaining units receive 1 personal holiday and then 10 or 11 paid holidays, and then the non-bargaining group receives trying to remember what the exact number is. It's like they receive 10 holidays and 2 personal holidays. What we want to do is align that so that the whole group is getting the same number of paid holidays and the same number of personal holidays. The way that it worked out, it was actually the same number of holidays total, if you look at that total, but because we had broken it out as these are paid holidays and these are personal holidays, that means our payroll clerk has to track it. But overall, they get the same number of holidays and personal holidays.
Just one more. And then, am I correct in saying that you can't base this off of workplace location, such as, like, we're comparing obviously to different cities, but, since we're in Grants Pass, the cost of living, housing affordability, rent, things like that?
That's a great question. So as we look at the internal pay compression that we're experiencing, the majority of that happened through bargaining. And in our bargaining groups, we're required by Oregon statute to utilize specific cities of the same size in our bargaining. That's where we get the market study information that we have to match to during bargaining. And the reason that that's important is because if the bargaining groups cannot come to an agreement and it goes to an arbitrator, the arbitrator is going to look at the cities of comparable size and then view the two last best offers between the city and the bargaining unit for consideration.
Do you know which statute that was again?
Up the top of my head, I don't know. The overall governing body is the Oregon Employer Relations Board, but I can't quote the statute for the 5 up, 5 down.
Okay.
Thank you. Victoria?
That was actually my question. I was going to ask for the ORSs that were involved. It would be, I think you have given them to us, so I think we may have them in different documents and I can find them. But I also remember in some of the information that we have received that comparable city for bargaining, one of them was Lake Oswego. And I just can't help but point out of 36 counties in Oregon, the 5 poorest counties, this is from the U.S. Census Bureau 2023, Malheur, number 1, Lake, number 2, Harney, number 3, Klamath, number 4, Josephine County, number 5. And these 5 counties are consistently at the bottom when it comes to annual income. And the median annual household income of Josephine County is $44,000. So when we're up here, I think maybe a few things that people have said there. I know that I just look to that too, and the reason why I do is because we are, and rightly so, I think, contacted by constituents daily, giving us this information. And so that's why I was interested in wondering what all the ORSs are that are saying we have to do that, because it seems so very much to me like it's an unfunded mandate. And I don't know if that is so, but it would certainly be really helpful to find out.
Yeah, so in bargaining, we do have to follow that statute. But I will share with you, and I have shared with you in my previous 2 presentations, that for this non-bargaining employee group, we did not just rely on the cities that were required to utilize for the bargaining process, but we did also include Southern Oregon cities, and even as I showed you, Lebanon, which is a smaller city, and brought their wages out. So this is really why it's important to have a full compensation and classification study done, so that we are able to control as employers that we're getting a good wide range of cities that we're using for that market analysis. We're not just using the north, we use the south too.
Thank you. Joel?
Great presentation, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We need to all honor our employees. They do a wonderful job. And so that just is fact. In terms of objectives of this subject, non-bargaining compensation, The previous one said solve internal pay compression, pay fair wages, prevent turnover, and improve recruitment, all good objectives. The one objective that the council has that personnel doesn't have, I remember when we were doing cuts in the general fund, because we had set ourselves up in the future for additional increase in expenses that the city couldn't pay without increasing taxes. And we did increase taxes. So I was thinking one of the objectives, and it's a council objective, it's not a personnel objective, is that we don't set ourselves up unknowingly to have the same thing happen. And somehow we figure in the budget, because we don't want to do that and then next year lay off people, not hire them, but anyway, that was my question. Why wasn't that objective in there? And it's a council objective, I wouldn't expect you to come up with that. On the step 1 to average market minimum, it has what is existing. And it would be nice to have, I don't have enough information to go forward and approve this at this point in time, at least one of the things. On 3 of those 4 things, I have enough to approve them. But I would like to know how this proposal, if implemented, would look like using the same graphics as that step 1 to average market minimum.
Okay.
And then with that, there's points behind there as to which positions are where. And it would be nice to have that in a chart form, because you used that chart to produce the graph.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be really hard to do that, I wouldn't think. Okay.
So I don't know how much, in the market study, the consultant did bring to our attention that when you look at the demographics of our workforce here at the city, the population, there's a great population of us, me included, that are probably ending my career cycle. So when you look at this for retention and recruitment, as there's the positions cycling out in the higher steps, we should be able to bring the new hires in the current step 1 and 2 of the proposed salary range.
Very valid concern. But anyway, I'd like to see that graph as to how this proposal lays up with those same statistics. On the approved cost of living increases, we talked about the 2025 cost of living comparisons between the different units of categories of employees. One thing that isn't included there is step increases, I believe. It's just the cost of living.
Yeah, correct. There's no increases to that salary schedule.
And so the step increases for higher paid employees is higher than lower employees, correct?
The final steps of the salary schedule only have a 2% difference between the steps.
Right, so 2% of a higher salary is greater than 2% of a lower salary.
That is true.
And that's not reflected in your graph. You didn't do that intentionally, I take it? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay, then on incentives, and we have 2 examples of wage compression. And it seems like both of those are dealing with, and I think your solutions are going to fix it, dealing with incentive pay and longevity incentive. And if those were consistent across both of those, we wouldn't have compression even with those 2 examples.
Correct. So with the new proposed salary schedule, the differences ensure that even with incentive pay, the employee that's being supervised would not be able to surpass the base hourly rate of the supervisor.
Okay, so then how many positions do we have? We have 2 examples before us. How many positions do we have right now that have wage compaction beyond this?
Almost every employee group has wage compaction. In the handout I presented to you last week, we included the GPEA building division. Some of those employees can earn up to 12% total incentives on top of their base pay. And remember, we're bargaining with GPEA this summer, so those increases and wages, those wages and incentives will be increasing.
Yeah, it seems to me like you take care of that in 3 out of those 4 things there that you recommend. Okay, then, under the Grants Pass Public Works Director, who does a great job. The operating budget is $163 million, which is a chunk of change, and it's removing the waste at 62.9% of the city's resources. I was just wondering, of that $163, because it was $1 million, it was used as a comparison. What is the absolute quantity of the solid waste budget?
Out of that 163 million, I want to say it's about $4 million total?
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
So there's still a $30 million difference between
Sure. It just
Medford.
wasn't clear to me in the way you presented the numbers. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Are you done?
No.
Well, you said thank you, so I thought you were passing on, but no, go ahead. Sorry, Joel.
Is this too long?
You keep going. You got a couple people behind you, though, just to let you know.
Yeah, we can do it one-on-one, but I guess we shouldn't do it one-on-one.
Nope, go for it.
So, let me see here. So on base pay and incentives for the Public Works Director, we got Medford listed, we got Grants Pass listed. We got responsibilities for Roseburg, Kaiser, and Woodburn. But we only have salary for, it seems like we kind of cherry-picked the salaries, and that was Albany and Medford, and that was the only two listed. So if we redo that and give us those data points for that one, that will help out. And look at how it compares to the average.
The market study did review all of the cities that we required. We presented this to demonstrate a data
There's some
point for you.
discrepancies, sure.
Yeah. If we go out and do another market analysis, it is quite time-consuming
Yeah.
to do a full study. Are you asking me for a full study, or?
No, what I'm
Okay.
asking for is what I asked for earlier, in terms of how does this proposal work on that graph for the 50% level, you know, where you have the different graphs across the way, and then you have the data points down below, because just looking at one or two doesn't give me the picture of what the average is.
Okay.
And so I'd like to use that, because I think that's more informative than what the highest ones are or what the lowest ones are. Because that doesn't help me. Same thing with the police chief, and he does a wonderful job. We only cite Woodburn, but then what is the average? And there's always going to be people that pay more, and hopefully there's some people that pay less, and that we're competitive. The other thing, okay, on police chief responsibilities, we do have that Grants Pass 911 call center, and it's expensive. County supports us with dollars, correct?
I'm sorry, sir, I don't know that part of it.
You talking about Josephine County?
Yeah.
No, they don't. They have their own dispatch center for the Josephine County deputies.
Okay. Then just an observation, and you don't have to answer this because this is outside your area of personnel. So richness of relationships overcomes scarcity of resources. Medford's been really good at having some good relationships and combining with other communities that reduce costs. And in all areas, not just this area, that might be one area that we could look at and provide even better service at reduced cost. That would also apply then to ESCO. Geez, if they got, if they already do it for the Rogue Valley and that was their area of coverage, why not? Yeah, it's just I would ask, that's my question, why not? Okay. City manager, those data points with that graph will answer that. Same thing with the finance manager. I commend you for looking at the compensation life cycle. I think that's a good thing. I do understand the recruitment thing and the aging workforce. So this is what I don't understand, and you and I have talked about it before. Step placement, factors. Any difference in pay must be based entirely on one or more of the following factors: a seniority system, a merit system, a system that measures earnings by quality or quantity of production, education, training, and experience. So here you have a person that has seniority, they have merit, they have earnings by quality or quantity of the job they're doing, they have the same education, they have the same training, they have experience, and we're changing their step. That's a foreign concept to me, because the merits for putting in the steps under Oregon pay equity have not changed for that person. The only thing that's changed is the pay schedule, none of the factors for what step you're at. And I just ask, how can that be? I just ask that. And there may be very good understanding of that. Okay. And, geez, I hope I communicated clearly. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Joel. I got Rob and then Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So, following up on what Joel said, I want to finish a sentence almost that you started when you're talking about the police chief responsibilities, and you mentioned ESCO. I think you just left out a word when you said, why not? Well, why not outsource? Why are we not outsourcing the same way that Medford is on the dispatch center? Why are we paying PERS on those employees when other cities may outsource it?
I can't answer that.
Well, I think that, I mean, this is a topic, this is a service level issue, and we'd be more than happy to address that topic at a future workshop or give you a council memo. I've already written it down. From a perspective of what is our opportunities to outsource 911 dispatch.
Okay. So when we spoke the other day in the 3-on-2 and also earlier today, one of the leading concerns, I guess, was some possible liability, legal liability in certain cases, quote unquote, legal consequences if wage adjustments are not approved. And one of the examples was given about protected classes, if there's disparity in pay between of people in a protected class, a disparity that, or something that you brought up the other day in the 3-on-2 was if, I think you used the word peer, meaning I think it meant if a similar level firefighter and a similar level police officer were making different amounts, or maybe you can define peer. But in both of those cases, you talked about a potential legal liability or being subject to lawsuit or something like that. So are there specific, or how many of those situations have you identified in our organization that are, we'll say, sort of immediate legal liability concerns?
So going back to Boley's requirement, work of a comparable nature is what we are evaluating internally. So it doesn't always tie to the job.
Excuse me, Mandy. Can you stop for a second, please?
I think we need to be very careful in answering this question in a public forum. If we will look into it and provide appropriate information to council, but we're not going to do that here in the public meeting.
Well, the other day, actually, it wasn't an attorney-client privilege situation when Mandy did bring that up, which is why I brought it up again in a public, outside of a legal setting. But I guess my concern is if there are particular places in this, in our current pay system that are potentially leaving us open to any legal threat, because again, you did bring that up. As earlier today, we also had it brought up. Another question that I have is, what percentage of this non-bargaining group are eligible for administrative leave, eligible to earn administrative leave? What percentage?
Off the top of my head,
I think it's all, but I don't know.
I don't know the exact number, but not every employee in the non-bargaining group is eligible for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to guess either. It is not every position in non-bargaining. That's intended for the employees that have the longer days or late night meetings, things like that.
So what percentage of administrative leave earned is actually taken or redeemed?
I don't know the statistics on that either. I can tell you administrative leave is common in most municipalities. Some of the cities just front load those hours. Other cities do it quarterly or monthly. But it is a common practice. As we were doing the market study, we did find that to be in most of the cities.
So I didn't necessarily see that listed in benefits, but which brings me to another question. You use the term, you've used it kind of interchangeably in different spots, but you use the term total compensation, and basically not in the same way that I would use it. But how does the medical benefits and things of that nature in Grants Pass compared to the other cities that were studied? Because there's no mention of that at all.
It is in the market study report. There was a variation. Grants Pass does offer 2 different benefit packages. Many cities offer 2 or more. The deductible amounts for some of the cities varied, and in some cases, Grants Pass was not the leader in having the lowest deductible. It is in the market study. I can pull that in a future presentation if you'd like a breakdown of what the employees are paying per pay period, because all employees do pay a portion of the premium. And then we can break out the different deductible levels if you'd like.
Well, that actually is worth considering, but also in other cities, what kind of coverage do people get regardless of their deductible? Because again, we're theoretically comparing Grants Pass, what I would call total compensation. You don't seem to call it that, but that's what I would call total compensation. And we seem to be comparing that and trying to come up with some equitable situation.
Yeah, I know. When we did the market study, we did see where Medford paid 100% of the premium if the employees picked the highest deductible. So you're spot on. It does vary greatly by city.
And again, it's not just the deductible that I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with what kind of coverage do people get? What is the value of whatever that is worth? Is also part of their part of total compensation. So I'd like to see that actually, if that's doable without it doing a whole nother compensation study. And then I think one last question. It says somewhere that an RFP went out, for this study. How ultimately was McGrath chosen?
So we did a request for proposal. It was advertised. We had 3 different vendors submit an application packet. We reviewed the qualifications and the experience of each of the applicants. Ultimately, we selected the one that was the most affordable.
Thank you. Eric, do you have another question?
Yeah, it's a pretty big presentation, so a lot of numbers there. I wanted to ask you a question in terms of the increases. There's increases across the board. It's pretty big. It's pretty on average. So my question, I guess, is it seems like this study should have been done a lot earlier than what it has been done. So my question is, why was it not? And also, just based off of the massive amount of increases, should it not have been done earlier?
So I did not join the city until May 23rd of 2023, and I did dig for the history and see where that presentation had been made to council in 2021, and where the previous HR director had presented to council in February of 2023 that a full compensation and classification study needed to be conducted. Internal pay analysis should be conducted every 3 years. I would recommend a full market study, just as we've done every 5 to 10 years, depending on how our adopted compensation plan is faring when we do that internal pay analysis. I don't know the history, but I could speculate and tell you Oregon Pay Equity Law went into the first version of law in 2017 and then was revised in 2019. And I think that's what prompted the previous HR director to request the market study.
Okay, then a follow-up question to that. I'm not really noticing, of course, I might be wrong, all the other cities throughout Oregon that we're compared to having this massive amount of increase. Why is that? I mean, is that a disparity, or what is the issue there?
I know that a great number of cities are currently in a market study. Lincoln City is currently doing a market study. Ashland had advertised theirs earlier. Tigard is doing a market study. I can speak on behalf of what happened in Grants Pass. I think our bargaining cycle is part of what resulted in our compensation life cycle ending, and that's what is pushing us at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I got Rob and then Rick.
Yeah, Joel mentioned this to me a few years ago, and I was wondering if you've seen anywhere where typically there can be 2 years between, like, say, steps 7, 8, 9, and 10, or something along those lines. I think he mentioned that's common in the federal government. Have you seen that, or do we see that anywhere?
I have seen that in the past. That could be part of the proposed changes, depending on if that's what council directs us for the compensation plan. I have seen that in other places of employment.
Rick and then Joel.
So Mandy, we're looking at these positions by classification and what they are named. Do we know if the other cities, if those positions are in bargaining units or non-bargaining units as well?
Mm-hmm. I don't have those statistics pulled.
Okay, thank you.
Joel?
So I was a little bit confused and misunderstood when we first started what was going on. And due to your patience, I'm up to speed a little bit better. At the salary schedule, at the different steps, and I guess I could figure it out myself, but I don't have the data. On all of them, you have the old step 1 through 10 salary, and you got the new proposed.
Mm-hmm.
And at the step, what was the percentage, using the same step, what is the percentage increase, and how does that compare to the cost of living? So, for example, I'll use Josh. Can I use you, Josh, as an example? Okay, so we got a really good park superintendent, okay? And he's at step 1, and he's got this, he's under the old schedule. He's more than that. Okay, so under the new schedule, he's still a step 1, but that schedule has a different pay rate.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that percentage? And then how does that compare to the cost of living that the other classifications of employees have? And not going between steps from step 10 to step 7 or whatever, just using the same comparable steps.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really how much we're increasing the wages.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition to that, we're realigning it. This is what I didn't understand before. So that tells me from one step to a similar step, the old to the new, at the same step, what the percentage increase is. But then we have this additional thing where we have people going back in steps with their qualifications being the same, and that they're actually overqualified probably for that step. And then you have this future increase that as long as they do satisfactory, they get, in addition to the cost of living. So I would like to know what the differences in pay at the same step level, what the percentage increase is, and how does that compare among the different categories of employees?
Understood, yeah.
Okay.
And it will vary greatly by position because as you see, each of the positions didn't fall exactly in the same comp ratio.
Sure.
So some of them fell further behind and some of them were.
Sure. And rightfully so, so they're different, rightfully so. But I just need to know what they are.
Understood.
Thank you. Any further questions? Kathleen?
I was curious, what you documented that there were 17 vacant positions currently?
Yep.
Could you give us a list of those?
I can rattle some of it off, actually.
Could you just email us a list of those?
Sure.
Please?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Rob?
Yeah, I have a question. So, you know, we've been told recruitment and retention is one of the, or two of the, I should say, foremost concerns of this concept. So when I look over at the staff table over there, I see at least 4 employees who fairly recently, I guess, I don't know how maybe I'm dating myself by saying the police chief is recent because it might have been a long time ago at this point. But there's at least 3 that are fairly recent, and I'm just wondering why, and you as well, why did you choose here? If I mean, I chose here because I like the quality of life, you know, and regardless of the problems we've been having the last couple of years, you know, when I moved my family out of Boston, literally at a football game, there was no one allowed on the sidelines at the football game, no fans allowed at football games because there was too many shootings. And I moved them here, and it was a completely different quality of life. I took my kids to the games, they could go to the bathroom, get popcorn, no problem, totally different quality of life. So I was willing to give up something to work here, and I'm just wondering what brought these people here if the pay isn't any good? Because those are actually, quite frankly, some of the type of employee that I'm actually looking to have here. But that is not necessarily quantifiable, and it's not mathematical, but that is actually, to me, valuable.
Yeah, sure.
I'll interrupt you right there. It seems like that could be infringing on a little personal aspect of it, so you can choose to answer that if you so desire. I understand where Rob's getting at. We're trying to get it, but I want to give you the opportunity if you want to answer that question or not.
Thank you. I'll speak on behalf of myself. I picked Grants Pass. I moved here from the north, and I moved here because I came here on vacation almost every year, several times a year. So it wasn't the job that brought me here. It was the community, and that's really why I love my job so much, because I get to be a part of this. But I didn't come here to necessarily get the income or the job. I came here to be a part of this community.
And I think that would bring back to one of Rob's questions he had in previous is the beauty of our town is very alluring in itself, and that should be considered as part of the attraction as well.
I count it as a benefit for myself personally.
Victoria?
Yeah, when you do send a list of open positions, could you also send a list of the ORSs that are associated with each of the possible lawsuits we were looking at, or any of the, like Oregon Pay Equity, BOLI, those kinds of things, and how they connect to each part of the puzzle that you've given to us, just to kind of simplify it?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
we can
you
do
so
that.
much.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right, I think that was very long and robust. Hopefully you presented enough information to answer the questions. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So on this subject, or
Yes,
sir. Subject, so does the city attorney, anyone want the document that was handed out in executive session earlier? Do they want that back? And if she does, I certainly would appreciate having most of that redistributed to us, but
If I can have those back, that would be appreciated.
then I would appreciate, because to me, 3/4 of that probably could have been distributed, or 9/10 of it could have been distributed open session. I would appreciate that part, because it'd be a good guiding document for me to have.
I will send the legal points, but not the analysis out through email for you.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mandy, I actually didn't do you have direction? Because I don't think I got direction.
What we're doing is we're going to gather all the questions. I've got a list of them. I'm sure some of the X-team has also provided those notes. And we can either distribute that through a council memo or maybe another workshop on this topic. So that'd be your call on how the council would like to have that, in a workshop or memo or both.
Joel?
Well, there's 3 of these I can approve or recommend for approval without knowing the answers to the questions. And those 3 are approve the alignment of holiday and vacation pay for internal equity, approve the longevity incentive across the board, not just give it to the bargaining employees, approve the reclassification of the 3 jobs. But I do need those questions answered before I can approve item number 1, which is the adopt a reconfigured salary schedule and proposed step placement.
And I think we got council consensus that basically there's still more questions. So Aaron's recommendation is that they can, they have a list of questions that they jotted down during your guys' question and answer session. So they will formulate that information and present it to us, I would say as simply as a memo.
Cool.
And then from that point, we can go forward. Okay? Anybody opposed to that? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is presentation in regards to the Caveman Pool. And it looks like Josh is going to present for us.
Josh by gosh.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. So yeah, we're here today to discuss the Caveman Pool. Josh Hopkins, Park Superintendent. Subject and summary is City Council discussion on how to proceed with the Caveman Pool project, or just the Caveman Pool in general. Its relationship to our council goals is for maintaining, operating, and expanding our infrastructure to meet community needs by appropriately maintaining and/or replacing an existing capital asset. We have lots of background on this, so I shortened it by a lot. On May 13, 2021, Council did appoint a Caveman review team. This was a citizen group. It met several times and submitted recommendations for a new aquatics facility. Then the city entered into a design for the new Caveman Pool project with Robertson Sherwood Architect, PC, in October of 2022. Between October of 2022 and September of 2024, several different design options were generated and refined. During this time frame, rehabilitation options were considered at the June 6, 2022 workshop, as well as the August 5th, 2024 council workshop. At the September 16th, 2025 workshop, council direction was to proceed with a plan that provided a 6.5 million construction target, and that's what we were working towards. Then at the January 7, 2025 special council meeting, 3 separate motions passed, which halted the work on the new design for the Caveman Pool project, as well as defunding the ARPA and URA allocations. Originally, we had 1.2 million in ARPA, which was transferred to PD for cell tower projects and then radio equipment. And then the $5 million URA allocation was removed. At this point, I think it's still waiting for a formal motion from the URA board to actually reallocate those funds and potentially move the Caveman Pool as a priority project. Current funding remaining in the LB 6393 Restore Place Caveman Pool is about $82,000. Cash balance shows a little bit higher, but I did just have to do a big roofing repair on that facility. With the previous renovation option that we looked at, it was a Renesis project or product. It involved a recirculatory gutter system, a PVC membrane. The PVC membrane is what goes on the bottom of the pool to stop the leakage and everything else like that. It included PVC decking, as well as a 2-flume water slide, and then a pool deck equipment package, which you can take or leave. That's your umbrellas, tables, and things like that, but they do sell commercial equipment, which lasts a whole lot longer. The ballpark for just that estimate was about $1 million. And that estimate did not include any sort of changes to the bathhouse or upgrades to mechanical rooms or the underground infrastructure of the pool. That was basically just something that was going to stop the leaks at the pool, address some of the issues with cracking around the pool, and then make a water slide. Here's kind of what that was going to look like at the time. You can see that with the Renesas liner as well as the new membrane or the new gutter system, the pool looks like it's new. It's just you get to preserve your concrete vessel and everything as opposed to ripping it all out. You got a water slide, 2 flume there, and then that's kind of what the decking looks like. Questions that have been asked in the past about these products, yes, you can choose different colors, or if you wanted to, you could pay more to add the city logo into the liner and things like that if you wanted to go that route, as well as with the decking, you can change those colors to match the city too. Additional renovation options that would be needed is to address our boiler and heat exchanger, which are very old, our hot water heater, our filtration and chemical system, rust mediation. Back in 2019, there's this Anderson Pool report that called as rust being a big issue, which we definitely deal with because pipes break. And then the main pipe and drain replacement. We have a main pipe going underneath the vessel of the Caveman Pool. We know it's leaking as it stands, and then the main drain system in the deep end of the pool is not functioning as the way it's supposed to by keeping groundwater out, so we need to replace those as well. And then any additional site improvements that people may want. For the boiler heat exchanger, I did get some odd quotes back, or some ballpark quotes back from a couple of companies. Depending on what we were going with, we'd probably be looking at about 85 grand just for that. That would include like installation based off of a project they recently did last year. Hot water heater would just be a domestic hot water heater. A large one is a few grand. For the filtration, chemical systems, and then dealing with new piping and everything like that, we'd really be looking at about another $350,000. And just for all of that alone, based off of a project they did last year, probably around $500,000 total. Without counting the main drain replacements or main underneath the pool pipe replacement. And that was including about a 10% for the engineering that would be needed before we did any of that work, because we have to submit it all to the state to get approvals. The main drain replacements and the pipe we have not looked into. It's going to require engineering, and all of our council direction up until this point has been that we're building a whole new facility, so we would have just addressed it at that point in time. Cost implications, to date, we've spent $148,205.25 on design options for the new aquatics facility. And then our current resources in LB 6393 is about $82,461. Call to actions at council's discretion. I wasn't really clear exactly what everyone wanted to talk about today. It sounded kind of like you were looking at the renovation, just to get more information about that. Alternatives would be to move it to some action, consent, or an additional workshop.
Thank you, Josh. Questions so far? We got Rob.
Yeah, unless I'm mistaken, the email that was sent out, the slides that were sent out over the weekend or Friday or whatever, there was 2 different sets of costs that I'm not sure what they represented. So there was the 558 that you had today. I forget what that represented. You just had the slide up there, 558, right? And then, but on Friday when we got the slides, there was one set that had 558, and then there was another set for the same exact line item was 435, and there was also a discrepancy between 85 and 104, depending on which slide for the same item, I thought.
Do you have a slide number that you're looking at here?
I'd have to.
If I go back to, were you talking about the Renesas option?
And then there was another one that said the same exact thing. But
Yeah, he's talking about the Reno Systems little flyer that they gave us.
Yeah, so with that, there were 2 there. Back in 2022, when I first brought up the idea at the first workshop we had before we did an RFP on this about looking at rehabilitating the pool, it was something that hadn't been considered up until that point. So we got a 2022 proposal that had a lot more detail. And then back in August of 2024, when we started looking at that again, because the Parks Committee made a motion in their June meeting of that year to look at rehabilitating the pool, they provided an updated cost.
So the difference is just inflation, basically.
Exactly,
Thank
and
you.
this is the 2024 cost.
Any further questions? No, seeing none, I guess we'll thank you for your presentation and bring it back to council for any further discussion. Kathleen?
I would like to make the proposal that we pass this project on to the high school or the YMCA.
Any further discussion? Do you, Victoria?
Just for clarification, did you mean give up the city pool to other organizations entirely? Is that what you're meaning?
Yes.
Okay, so Kathleen floated an idea to have conversations to transfer power of the Grants Pass community pool, and I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at actions down there. So any further discussion with that? Rob?
Kathleen, do you have any indication that either one of those groups want to take over the pool? Did you talk to anybody from them, or?
I think we've heard in the past that there might be more suitable use and interest.
And I have actually had some personal conversations with a few school board members that would be very entertaining in having this conversation. They don't know so much as why taking over any fiscal responsibility, but currently the Caveman Pool is owned by the city piece of property, but it sits right in the middle of the school district high school, as well as there's a couple of the parks such as Gilbert Creek Park, which the school district owns, and the city takes responsibility in operating and maintaining it. So there is always an opportunity, there is always a conversation that can be had about land swaps. Joel and then Seth?
And we would need to check with the Y as well. Last time I talked with the chairman of the board, I guess, he indicated that, well, the city loses money on the pool. And so if the Y took it over, you know, it still has the same repair problems. It still needs the capital investment. And then it loses money. And so I think it's going to be a hard sell with the Y. They actually put in a new Y pool up in Eugene, and they really had some fiscal problems. And I don't know if it compares or not, but it'd be worth asking, but I would be doubtful.
Seth?
Does it make sense to move it to an additional workshop and invite those people to discuss? I don't know. Is that an option?
That is an option if you so desire to float that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'd float that idea to invite the YMCA and Grants Pass School District to an additional workshop.
If it's such that you're trying to get interest and ideas on whether or not they'd be interested and start that negotiation process or do something along those lines, it may be better just to provide direction to the city manager to reach out to those agencies and see if they're interested instead of doing so on the dais.
That might be advantageous. Victoria?
I would love to hear what they had to say in a workshop.
I'm going to throw that back to you, Seth. What's your opinion, and if you want to continue the idea or modify your idea? So basically, you propose maybe bring it back in a workshop so we can further discuss it, have an opportunity to have a representative from school board district as well as a representative from YMCA to speak. That would be in a public venue. Staff was suggesting maybe first to do an outreach via email or phone and get some feedback before we venture down that road. Your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I could switch it up to provide direction to at least reach out and see what their interest is.
Okay, so what's council's feeling on that? A little thumbs up for Approval? Okay. Yep, yeah, hold on. So Aaron, do you have direction? Yes. Thank you. Joel?
So summer's coming. It's very expensive. I don't know how much water that pool goes through in a day, but it goes through a lot. It's costing money, more money than it needs to. I don't know what the dollar value of that extra maintenance is versus the repairs that Josh gave us, what the economic difference is between the two options. And then the other thing is, if we did fix it, to me, the red herring question is, well, what about those things we're not fixing, and how does that work, and what's the risk of that failing? Whether how those two questions play in with the coordination with the Y and any other civic group that wants to operate it, I think they're pertinent questions. When I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg, but both of them need to be done if we're going to have a pool. But I don't know what the plans are for. So are we just going to go ahead and pay for the added cost this summer?
I would probably pose that back to staff and ask them to research that information on what's the cost of that, operating it without renovation. We do know that I think it's 78 days that it's open during the summer. So, but that's a lot of expense. So,
We'd be operating the pool as status quo right now. If you were wanting to do those repairs and go through that process, we would be looking at doing that during the off season.
Yeah.
And before you have that discussion, I think you need to determine if there's interest in another agency taking the property over. And then you may not need to have that discussion if you found someone that was willing to do so.
Yeah, because you could do those renos in time for it to open up, because I think the opening season's pretty upon us, close to. Eric, did you have a question?
Not a question, more of a comment, but essentially if the city, or if it's privatized, this pool, it might make it easier to get some sort of assistance rather than through the city to get these repairs made, so.
Yeah, I think that would be explored in the conversations. I guess just to divulge a little bit, I did have a small conversation with a couple school board members, and they were very intrigued and thought that they might be able to have a lot more grant resources if they actually own the pool. That was part of the conversation, but that can go later date. Okay, pool topic is put to bed. You have full directions. Thank you very much. Now into agenda review. I'll open it up to the council. Do you have anything to add, subtract, or questions or problems? Okay, let me reiterate that. Add, subtract, or questions. I don't want to hear problems. Just kidding. Kathleen? Go ahead, Kathleen.
I would like to request a workshop on looking at the ECSO to take over the dispatch portion of the police department, I guess.
The 911 response?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a council member that has requested a workshop on basically privatizing the 911 system. Is that kind of way I understood it?
I think at this point, it may be best to have a memo to you on the 911 system, how it works and what our options are, but we could potentially do a workshop, but a memo may be advantageous, and then once you digest that information, maybe potentially move into a workshop. Chief, do you have anything else to add?
No, the only thing I would add is, we didn't have a chance to talk about it specifically, but there's a 911 agency that supplies a lot of dollars that supports the operation, along with the user fees from all of the other fire departments. The sheriff's office are the only ones that do not provide user fees because they have their own dispatch. We are fully capable and have adequate resources to maintain that service here in Josephine County, and a collaborative effort would take a lot of work, not just on the front end, but on the back end and everything in the middle. It's quite the robust challenge. I don't even know if that's even able to happen. Other agencies across the state have consolidated and have consolidated agencies, and others have not for a variety of different reasons. Every single law enforcement agency and every single fire department in Jackson County pays the emergency communications of Southern Oregon dollars. So even if we were to explore a long-term exploration of a consolidated agency, it's still going to cost us a significant amount of money.
Okay, with that further information that was thrown your way, Kathleen, do you want to, are you amenable to ask for more information in a memo, or do you want to proceed into a workshop?
Sure, I'd like to hear all those variables.
Perfect, perfect. So I guess the request would be for, so I'll have to throw it back on the dais. We've got one, anybody want to add to that? Is anybody else interested in providing this information?
In a memo?
Yes.
I'd like a memo.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. Aaron, do you have direction?
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joel?
So I'm going to ask an ignorant question, and I apologize for that. Hold me accountable for it, I guess. On the unhoused situation with where we're at and what's happening with the courts or not happening with the courts, and what is our next move, and what are the options? I think I have them clear in my mind, but I'm not sure that it's the same as everybody else in this that's up here, and I think it's important that we talk about that.
Who wants to jump in on that?
I'll start. Okay. So what we're doing right now is we're in the process of implementing council's policy direction. There's a couple of things that came out of that. One, the expansion of Site 3 and potentially Site 4 there on 6 and A. Those have not been implemented yet. We're working on getting those implemented. Once those are implemented, that's one step. And the other step we need to do is be prepared to discuss what our definition of ADA is when it comes to the sites. And Aaron Heisel and Stephanie will be working on that. And then the third thing that we're dealing with right now is Stephanie is going through and making some minor code revisions that are going to be brought forward to council that are based on the latest injunction coming out of our court. Once we've adopted those and we've got the site in place, then we'll be to a point where Aaron Heisel can go back and have a discussion about the injunction.
So then, and you don't need to answer this, and with somewhat trepidation, I even bring it up. That sounds really good. So I just view these camps as not a final solution, but as a step along the journey. And we need to see what the next step is. I don't know when we want to schedule that or when we want to talk, but we need to ask the question. Does that make sense?
I do want to correct you one bit. I would really like council to go forward in addressing these as temporary resting sites. I hate to parse words, but we know that words have meaning, and we already know that we're trying to keep above board. So I'd just really like to keep that conversation and our nomenclature the same. So
sure.
Temporary resting sites.
Well, there's something even better beyond it, I would think. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, there is.
I apologize for that. You're right.
We are working forward, and we're taking this step by step, because this is not a problem that you can snap your fingers and fix stuff. So I think we are on a journey.
Right. And so when is it on the agenda? Are we going to take the next step?
So basically, just as Aaron said, they are implementing. You guys had decided to expand and make 2 more camps.
I have to stop you right there. We have not decided that. My understanding is we'll be deciding that on Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, if you let me finish, that's what I'm going to get to.
Walk that back. You and Aaron both have to walk that back, right? Wednesday night as a public action, right? And the public will get to speak first.
Correct. Council has made the decision to address by expanding 2 camps, and a resolution will be provided on resting sites on Wednesday night, which puts it in a public forum, and the public can weigh in on that before you guys make the final decision, the final vote. Yeah, and so then I guess once all that goes forward, just like Aaron said, then, you know, legal counsel gets involved and they have their meetings with the powers that be, and hopefully it's a positive and we can continue down our journey. Yes, ma'am.
I am in the process of drafting that ordinance amendment. We are shooting for the May 7th meeting to bring that to you. So there's a draft that's being reviewed by Aaron Heisel's office under the language from the courts.
For the code or for the resolution for the new?
The code.
The code.
Yep, the code, the other piece that was discussed,
Correct.
where we needed the 150 sites plus some potential ordinance changes. The ordinance changes, we're looking at a May 7th date if we can get through the draft in the next week.
Okay. Hopefully we'll make things even better than what they are today. Okay.
Yeah, that's our intention, is
For
always to make it
everyone.
better than
For
the way we
everybody.
left it,
Yeah,
right?
for everyone.
Isn't that the forester's mode? You leave it better than you
Yeah,
found it?
for the spotted owls and the logger. Yes.
Oh, that one hit low, buddy. That one hit low. I'm a child of that era. That hurt me. Victoria?
I don't know, Joel, if this is where you were going, but and I'm curious about this too, if it is where you were going, on our next steps. I would like an update on that, and because I don't see it anywhere on the agenda schedule.
So the next steps, I think what's referred to is there's some action in association with the property city council is wanting us to look into. Once we have that information that you requested, we'll be providing that to you in executive session where you'll have further discussion on that. And so once that's in our hands, we'll have an executive session on that.
Oh, thank you. Do you have an ETA on that?
I haven't received the ETA yet. I was planning on following up this afternoon again. I've left a message.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion in regards to agenda review? Kathleen?
Well, I was just kind of wondering about, we turned in all our surveys for the strategic planning. Is there going to be some consolidation and a memo sent out about what that looks like?
So we'll be going over that on the 23rd. We're putting that together right now, the finalization. There wasn't a lot of major changes to the workbook, but that's what we'll be going through on the 23rd.
Perfect. Anything else? No? Staff have anything to bring up? Okay, with that, we have gone through our workshop agenda. We've gone through agenda review. Seeing nothing else, we will exit this. Yes, note, please return your packets, the 2025 compensation non-bargaining salary schedule reconfiguration packets, please.